Hi, this is Natalie Lander, voice of Kinsey, Tara Branford, Stargirl, and many others. You are listening to a W2Mnet podcast. You can visit W2Mnet.com for other podcasts about entertainment, video games, sports, and wrestling. You are listening to Video Games to the Max.
Hello and welcome to a special Video Games to the Max, as I am joined by not just Marc Morrison on this one, but several other folks that you've heard before if you've been a long-time listener to the podcast or just this year. And we are here to discuss our top 10 list for Game of the Year and also ranking them into the usual top 25 for W10net.com, and then there'll be a written thing like we normally do that goes along with it that'll come out after Christmas sometime. But holiday treat as everybody's getting ready. A lot of people celebrate on the 24th. There's a lot of other people celebrate on the 25th. So whatever you decide to do, enjoy your holidays and Merry Christmas. I'm your host, Sean Garmer. Here with me, as always, Mr. Marc Morrison.
Howdy.
And joining us, the other member of the podcast, doing that Video Games to the Medium sometimes with Mark Jens. What's going on,
Sean,
sir?
Thanks for inviting me.
Well, hey, always good to have you. And this would not be as good or anything with just me and Mark, so we gotta have more people for this thing. And of course, Mr. Randy Isbelle is here too.
I'm glad to be the least qualified person to talk about 2019 video games on here. It'd be great.
Hey, the games you will be able to talk about, at least you'll be passionate.
Yeah,
It's a valid perspective, though.
Yeah, exactly. That's important too. So. We also had two other people that technically gave their top 10s. Daniel was going to be on the podcast, but unfortunately he suffered a loss in the family, so our condolences to him. And Stephanie Diaz Saki Sakura, who you can go follow on Twitch, she gave her 10 as well. So those 10s along with ours that are here talking all combine. Because there's some rules to these top 10s. The only thing that guarantees actual placement into the top 10 is either it has to be your number one game, or you have to have 3 votes combined between the 6 people that voted. So as we give lists of stuff, we'll talk about, hey, we had 3 votes here, 4 votes here, as in the case for one game that, when I look back, it's probably not even in my top 15, but it made several other people's top 10, so it's in here.
Do the other members vote remotely, or...
No, it's just us.
It's just us, but do we take into account, for instance, that Stephanie is the other person with Code Vein on her list?
We can, discuss that, but like I said, the only times that matters is if it would have made it to where... that made it into a 3 or more. If it's 2 or less, you've still got to argue a little bit more about why that needs to be in or not, like Stephanie's number 1 that nobody even remotely had anywhere near. Probably because, that's a game that requires you to pay to play. So, and it's also very time consuming. So, but, that will have to be included in the list somewhere because she put it as her number 1. So, even though it's very deserving considering, what that game has been able to accomplish this year, and just, now Anthem has a guide to go on as to how perhaps to maybe make their ongoing game work. Yeah,
that'll happen.
Maybe,
Yeah.
So let's let's start with something here because Mark and I kind of did a year in review kind of thing, but we didn't really talk about what like a theme from this year, like what when you look back at 2019 in games, what stands out to you. So Jens, when you look back at this year, what stands out as like a theme for 2019?
Gosh, an overarching theme. I'm seeing lots of anime.
Oh, is that different from every other year, though?
But yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's the. For me, the theme was games that with mechanics that I don't usually enjoy somehow being enjoyable.
I would that goes for me too.
Goose
so
Game and Death Stranding. I just really, these are not things that I thought I would like, or even A Plague Tale. I'm generally not a stealth game guy, but like all of those were impressive to me.
I'm the same way. If you would have asked me any other year, was Outer Wilds my kind of game, I would have said no. But this year, it was something that stood out for me. And I'm not a space exploration guy.
Formula?
What do you say?
You don't usually do Fallout formula kind of games?
No, not Outer Worlds. Outer Wilds.
Yeah,
so that makes a lot more sense.
I'm not a space exploration guy. I'm usually not a guy that likes games where you kind of just are given an open book and here you go and you figure it out, and that's very much that game. But it's so endearing in how it tells its story and the music and everything else that it got me into it. A Plague Tale also. I mean, it's beautiful on the surface, but I didn't think that I'd get wrapped up in its story, and then I did, and even with the technical issues on PC, it kept making me want to play. So, there's that.
So, Sean, something occurred to me since we're talking about kind of coming to like things we don't usually like. The other side of the coin is there were a lot of games this year that I feel are refinements. Like it's almost like you've got a lot of daring, innovative stuff on one side, and then a lot of beautifully refined versions of systems that we all know and love that are kind of like comfy blankets to us, like The Outer Worlds or Fire Emblem or Code Vein, those kind of games. They're just comfortable games,
Yeah, certainly. I think you had a lot of that this year, where I think Kingdom Hearts 3 also falls in that category, where
absolutely.
It's there, and it's certainly that same game you remember from all those years ago, for the good and bad of it. So, I think that's another. I think we've also got plenty of remakes that were very well done for this year. I think this is a year that showed you can have a remake, and you can also have a remake that's it's very different from its source material, and you can have the remake that's very close to the source material, and they can both be great. It just depends on how much care you put into it. And I think both Resident Evil 2 and Link's Awakening showed that.
Yeah.
Randy, when you think about this year, what comes to your head?
Actually, I basically agree with Jens' last comment about the comfy blanket thing. To me, 2019 came out to be a very niche year, and you see that when you looked at the Game Awards Game of the Year nominees. I mean, all of them had a chance to win Game of the Year because they all had their own different fan bases. I mean, obviously Death Stranding, one of the more polarizing games of the year, but Sekiro wins, but that's more of a Dark Souls kind of game, so that fan base is very hardcore about the game. That's just not my kind of game. I'm not saying it's bad, but that was so many of these games this year where I can look at it and go, oh yeah, that's a great game. Not for me, but absolutely great. I mean, Fire Emblem, you're not going to get common gamer B to really get into Fire Emblem, but if you're into that series and into that storyline and that kind of gameplay, it was fantastic for them. I mean, I know Mark talked to me a lot about it, and it's one of his favorite games. And you just go down the list, other than, like, Resident Evil 2 did enough different where it was a little bit more mainstream, but everything else you look at, it's all hitting that niche market. Like you said with Kingdom Hearts was that comfy blanket. Pokemon was basically the same kind of thing there. Devil May Cry 5 I very much enjoyed, but I like Devil May Cry games. Did it do anything different than the other ones? No, not really. But it was just, as Yen said, it was just a refinement to their system, and it worked great.
And so slick. That's one of the coolest games I feel this year. It's just as far as the systems.
Mark, what stands out to you from?
I would say the inverse kind of. Well, I would compliment Jens what he said about getting into genres that you didn't expect to this year. Like Fire Emblem was for me like I don't like the type of strategy games that much. Like it's very much like in Disgaea like format, and I hate Disgaea kind of because it's too complicated. But Fire Emblem like really keeps it simple to make it approachable like an XCOM game. And the other one was like Remnant from the Ashes. I mean, I know Jens loved it, but I really enjoyed it because it's the first Dark Souls game I could get into because it's not melee focused. Like it's ranged, so it's like okay, this makes a lot more sense than walking up on some dude with a big axe and hitting him over and over.
See, I never play ranged characters in Dark Souls games.
Neither do I. So then you just walk up to some guy, you have to. It's the whole thing about baiting him to attack you, and then you circle straight around him to hit him.
We can defer our Remnant argument for a little bit later.
But then in Remnant, you just have a gun, so you just keep him at bay and just shoot him to death. And it's like, yep, this makes a lot more sense.
Certainly. When I think about 2019, I think about just how many little surprises we had from, like, the Goose Game. It comes out and it kind of takes over pop culture for a little while, and it becomes this thing that all of a sudden you didn't know you wanted a game where you play as a goose, but then you play it and everybody complains about it's too short. I wanted more time with the goose. Then you have Apex Legends that comes out and it completely makes you rethink what you need to do in the Battle Royale genre to the point where Fortnite just copied all the things that Apex did well. And also perhaps maybe pushed, Navy is something that made Blizzard have to think about, maybe we need to get something else going with Overwatch as well, because Apex is a little bit of two different games in one, which I think helps that game a lot. And other little indies and things like, Disco Elysium was a huge surprise, I think, coming out and then becoming this thing that everybody kept talking about once it was out, and more and more people played it, and it was the game that won the most at the Game Awards. So obviously for that reason, and I think also for as much as people want to either you really love this game or you hate this game or whatever, Death Stranding provided a lot of that too. And also, I think when Nintendo announced that they have an exclusive Switch Online game and then Tetris comes out as a Battle Royale and takes the world by storm too, I think that was a kind of cool thing. And I think that's all done well by the fact that we didn't have this one outstanding game that you go, okay, this is going to win everything. This is the game that everybody's got to play, and it's perfect, and don't worry about it. You're going to love it, whether you like this kind of game or not. It's the game to go play. Last year it was God of War. 2 years ago it was, Breath of the Wild. You don't have that way this year. We listed a bunch of great games, but each one of them have some kind of issue you can point to and go, yeah, I don't know about that. And perhaps maybe the only one that might skate a little bit is Resident Evil 2 Remake, but even then, it's still also you're talking about an old game that was just remade really well. So there's just I think that's what's cool, and also I guess weird about this year is you don't have that one game that you go, man, we're going to be talking about that game in 5 years or whatever. But there's also that cloud that hangs over this year of, well, Sony, Microsoft already announced they're working on other new systems. Microsoft already showed theirs off in a way. So we know 2020 is coming to deliver some fire. So this one's kind of like that year we're just waiting around on. If you kind of understand me.
I'm not ready for
there.
the end of the generation.
Oh, but it's going out with a bang.
I mean, it's great.
Man.
We're on a roll. Let's keep it going,
But they're doing that also because they want you to see what kind of experiences you can have on those next consoles too. There's a little bit of.
I mean, if it's just all the same stuff running at a stable 4K 60, I'll be happy.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Is like there are games right now that aren't running well in PS4. So
Mm-hmm.
if they can get that working well, like Control or Jedi Fallen Order, that might help.
Yeah.
Like, I'm so happy with games right now. I mean, it's really just quality. Lots and lots of quality.
Also,
Exactly.
Fire Emblem is a perfect game for this year. Continue.
I agree, it's an all-timer.
It's weird. Like there's a lot with Fire Emblem. I see a lot of love for that game, but I also see people that like apparently had issues with how they changed the gameplay to focus a lot more on the stories with the three houses and everything else. So it's
if you don't like the social gameplay, you're just gonna hate whenever it forces you to spend 2 hours on it all of a sudden.
yeah.
But,
That's
I just kind of alternated. For me, Fire Emblem was like a big chunk of my year. It was like 4 or 5 months of my year was just, every other day or so I'd boot it up and I'd either spend 2 hours doing story stuff or I'd, do like grind out 5 or 6 battles and go to bed.
well
I mean,
certainly. Go
I
ahead.
played it 2.5 times, and it's not exactly a short game to play.
Yeah, not for sure. So
Yeah.
go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, it can unlock upgrades, like New Game Plus, making it a little quicker, but it's still not that quick.
All right,
Waiting
so
for
let's
some DLC before we get into New Game Plus too deep. But yeah, it's great.
let's start with these top 10s. But before we totally get to that, is there a game that like you felt, man? I know we did some honorable mentions, so if you want to talk about one of those instead of one that didn't make the list at all, but is there a game that you go, man, I really had to fight to put it in my 10, or what? They like just missed it. That you go, man, this was a great game, and I had to fight myself not to put it in.
It's just like I wanted to put Judgment or Devil May Cry 5, or there's so many games I wanted to put on the list. I wanted to play Jedi Fallen Order, didn't get around to it. So it really is just, man, I know there's all these great games that I think would be in my top 10 if only I'd played enough of them. Like, I feel like if I didn't play basically the whole thing, it wasn't qualified to go in the top 10, so that's really what decided it. So I actually didn't come up with honorable mentions.
But so that's what it is for you. The ones that didn't make it are just ones that you felt like you didn't get around to playing, or
Yeah, I didn't spend enough time with, exactly. So like, I know that there would be, but it was actually kind of hard coming up with a full top 10, to be honest.
My only honorable mention is probably going to be The Tourist, because I mentioned it a few times. I just really liked it, and it was a pleasant game, or pleasant experience. But then, like, it's hard to compare The Tourist against Kingdom Hearts or Control. So,
is there a game that Randy, that you like looking back at the year, you go, man, I really wish I would have played that?
Oh, there's several I want to get around to, but with money and time, I just haven't gotten to. I mean, Star Wars looks really fun. Control looks really cool. I want to try that. I'm hoping it goes on Game Pass here in like January, February, before 2020 becomes insane. There's a few out there that I want to give a shot to, but there's others that are just, I know they're going to be so much time sucks. Like, I do like Fire Emblem. I played a couple. I reviewed one for the website a few years ago, but there's no way I could get into that with some of the games that are coming out next year. But yeah, there's a few that I want to get around to in the next month or two.
That new Madden game, that's what you're looking forward to?
Actually, I haven't bought a Madden in like the last 3 or 4 years. Yeah,
Or
I'm a
WWE.
baseball guy. I buy the show. The show is my game. That's my $60 subscription fee.
It'll be WWE 2K20. That's what you really want.
It would if they would have brought back GM mode. I would have had to buy it because, like I said, I'm never buying a WWE game until they bring back GM mode. And luckily, they did not this year, and they didn't put anything in that game.
Thank God you saved yourself the money there. That would have been bad. So yeah, I mean, let me go ahead and start with your how many ever you want to run through here. I mean, I guess start with your number 10, which is Gears 5.
Yeah.
I played it a little bit.
It.
I felt it kept going on the track that they were going with Gears 4. What was there something that stood out to you for it?
Oh yeah, that's a lot better than Gears 4. A lot better. I think it's the best Gears game since 3. I think it's also the hardest Gears game ever made. I mean, my friend David and I, we've played every one of them on Experience to Hardcore, whatever the second to last difficulty is, which is what you were supposed to play it on, I guess. And this is kicking our asses in ways that Gears never has before. But the feel is, I mean, I think that it feels really, really good. The new enemies are cool and intimidating as hell. And it's the best value for money of any Gears game. I mean, it's really long. I think it's like with side missions, it's like 25, 30 hours. It's got a kind of a little open world hub kind of thing. So it is different than Gears. The collectibles are way more substantial. It's not. I mean, it's not a completely linear campaign like what old Gears was. So I think it's just a really good Gears game.
Yeah, Daniel also had it as his number 10, and yeah, it's just I liked it just because I really liked Kate from the 4, and I wanted to see her story continue. So
Yeah, she's got stuff to do.
Yeah. So I haven't played. I'm gonna play more of it as it goes on, but yeah, I've been enjoying what I did get to play. So Microsoft, their one game that they nailed this year out of the 2. So at least that it's certainly with Game Pass, it's worth going back in and. As somebody who does the Game Pass Ultimate on PC, I gotta say that thing is totally worth it. Like getting to go in and play games not on the console and just being able to play on the PC too, and just you're paying an extra $5 to do that. I think that's such a great thing that Microsoft did.
No opinion.
Mark, you and Stephanie both have Kingdom Hearts 3 as your number 10. Jens has it a little higher, and Daniel has it really high as his number 4.
That's nuts.
Yeah. I mean, I talked about it as comfort food. What do you got? Yeah.
I actually just really liked how it played. Like, it was very simple. Like, you couldn't really lose combat, I didn't think. Like, because you had so many options for just destroying all the enemies on the screen at any given time.
It is a great game to half-ass.
Yeah. The story's dumb, but it's what you expect. So, yeah, they don't explain anything. And they go, play Kingdom Hearts 358-2 to get the full story. And it's like, I'm not going to do that. Sorry. Good production value. They fixed the gummy ship to not be completely terrible. It's only like 99% terrible now. Yeah, a lot of combat options. Yeah, I think the combat is just good. Like, I consistently enjoy just the time, beating up on the stupid Heartless and whatever other crap they were throwing at you.
The thing that makes it really easy is the finishers, but that's also one of the most fun things about it.
Yeah, like the Ferris wheel thing, or the merry-go-round
teacups
thing.
on the boat.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the park rides.
Yeah.
I love the Keyblade form changes. Like,
Yeah,
that's
so
what I
good.
like the most.
Like the drill stuff, like the yo-yo, and all that crap.
I will fully admit that, like, this is my first Kingdom Hearts. I'm not really a veteran of the series. I watched some YouTube videos to catch up, and I really only understand the rough outline of the story.
Did it make it worse or better? Because
No, there's some
I
good
feel-
there's some good videos.
I feel like if I watched Kingdom Hearts videos, I would learn. I would have Kingdom Hearts knowledge taken from my brain. I would go from 0 to negative numbers.
No, but what I'm really here is Square Enix lovingly recreating best offs of Frozen and Tangled. I mean, it's really the production value that really pushes this game over the edge for me. It's a perfectly fine action RPG, as Mark pointed out, very simple. But yeah, the gummy ship is good. Reminds me of old shmups, which is nice. And
You should have played,
it's just so pretty.
the first games. They were interesting.
Oh, I'm sure.
My only problem, and I mean it's against positive, but what I didn't like is I didn't like a lot of the game worlds in the Kingdom Hearts 3, like a lot of the Disney worlds.
They just felt empty to me. Like,
Well, they always are, but I mean, like I would have really liked like a Gargoyles world or like a Wall-E world. Like we didn't need Tangled and Frozen.
Okay,
well,
so
if you're gonna
you don't
pick
like
one
the choice
Pixar
of-
world to start with, it's gonna be Toy Story. I mean,
No, Toy Story was perfectly fine, but then it's like there are other, there are more important game, I think worlds out there that could have been re-explored or done better.
well, I agree. Like, I felt like Frozen. Obviously, we now know why they didn't let you go inside the town, because they kind of showed that off a little bit more in the movie that just came out. But just being out there in a bunch of snow the whole time kind of just was blah to me. And then, like, I don't know why we needed to watch the whole Let It Go. That was a bit much, I think.
Because they could.
Right, they could, and it was beautifully, redone and everything, except for when they pan over to Sora and he's like, what? And Goofy's like, gosh, and like, whatever. It's like, okay, this just took me out of the whole thing, but whatever.
No, I just want Goofy I want a commentary track where Goofy reacts to every Disney movie.
Yeah. I mean, but it does have, like, if you're into the story like I am and, Stephanie is, I don't know how much, Daniel is or whatever, but when Donald dies, quote unquote, or whatever, that was sad. And, like, to find out that he's, like, the highest magician or whatever in all of Final Fantasy lore, because he's the one that could do Zeta Flare, and it's like, really? Okay, Disney, we went a bit too far, or whatever.
You just can't accept the truth.
Yeah, my issue is that, like, I get it that this is still going to be a PS2 game. It's the end of a whole saga, or is it? Who knows, really, with the Nomura and how he works. But, like, they could have done a little better job of telling the story. It felt really stilted. It felt really like just, okay, here's this world, whatever. The organization guy shows up, and then here we are again to the next thing, and whatever. I felt like they did a better job of tying in the worlds in the first two games than they did in this one. So, I don't know. That it hurt it for me, but I still enjoyed it. It was my comfort food for the beginning of the year. It's one of the few games I actually finished, so it is what it is. I know you did a spoiler cast, Jens, for Catherine Full Body.
Oh. Yeah, we've talked
We're
about
with
it
Mark.
at great length.
This is another one of those, remakes that came out this year.
Yeah.
Would you say they did a really good
this is
job with
comfort
it?
food for me, this is, original Catherine, one of my favorite games of all time. And this lets me experience that again on current gen, so with some interesting, if somewhat shoehorned additions. So yeah, I'm going to put it on my top 10 because it's Catherine. It's still fantastic in absolutely every conceivable way, except the broken online.
Yeah.
Which is why it's so low on the list. I think if I had actually been able to subject Mark to this game in co-op and done the bonus levels with him, I think this could have easily been number 3 or 4 on the top 10, but the broken co-op is the deal breaker there. But it's still Catherine. It's great, and the new stuff's good. It's not integrated as well as I would like. It also creates some plot holes. The addition of the third Catherine, where like certain moments don't play right to me. But you know, it's no vanilla Catherine, but it's still Catherine.
So they changed certain things that you didn't like particularly?
Yeah, certain things get recontextualized. It's not that nothing gets taken away, it's just that the additions do fundamentally alter the story.
Alright, going back a little bit, because I forgot to do this while we were talking about it. Kingdom Hearts 3 is the only other game where we have like a lot of people put it in their list. Where would you, if you guys had to like take a stab in the dark right now with nothing really ranked, where would you say you'd put it
10 or
in
9.
The top 25?
Two of us had it as number 10, and one guy had it as 4. So like, number 10 or 9 would be fine.
Around there, you think? Well, let's put it there for now, and then we'll see how it goes with the rest of these. Do you think, Jens, that Gears 5 or Catherine really needs
those
to
are
be
just my own. I don't think they're gonna be in the top 10 at all.
Okay. Well, I mean, it's 25 games, so do you feel like one of those two really needs to be in there for sure?
I think Gears maybe.
Okay.
Even though it's lower on my personal list, I think that Gears is probably a little bit more significant a game.
Well, Mark, another game that has been talked about a lot was obviously nominated for Game of the Year in the Game Awards. Randy's girlfriend loved it. The Outer Worlds.
Yeah, it's good. It cuts a lot of the bloat away from a standard Bethesda game, which is nice. It's not glitchy, or like not that glitchy. Like I hit like one or two spots where it was a little awkward, like animation wise, but like the game didn't crash, or like I didn't walk into an endless void like it did in Fallout 4 occasionally. For me, like the only problem with Outer Worlds is like really the story. Like it just is like lacking a forward momentum that like I think Fallout 3 and New Vegas really had, and even Fallout 4 until it fucked it up at the end. Like it had a good narrative momentum that I don't think the Outer Worlds necessarily has that well.
Okay.
I mean, that might just be me, but it's like, yeah, I mean, this is good, but yep.
So is there anything that makes it stand apart from the Fallout games, or, you know?
Well, like I said, just the fact that, like, when you pick up an object off the table, everything else doesn't go clattering to the ground, like, you know, infected with physics, like, you know, Oblivion and Skyrim and all that crap.
So the things that are most in its favor over a Bethesda game is I think it plays a lot more. It's a lot more stable, a lot less glitchy, and also the art style's better and the writing's better. I mean, it's got that.
I mean, it's also a much smaller game. Like, you know, it's not like Skyrim is a huge world. This game is very segmented by planets, and even like the individual areas you're exploring really just aren't
areas
that
not
big. But it's a matter of conciseness versus having a huge world that is basically empty or basically nondescript. So I would rather take, you know, the concise aspect than, you know, a world that has no meaning.
Oh, it's way more focused than the last few Fallout games.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't put a bunch of crafting that you don't like. All the stuff that all the Bethesda bloat that kept getting added over the last few iterations, like that. You don't know that. This is like a classic.
This definitely has some bloat, like the whole like food mixing crap. It's like I mean, but it's not integral to the experience. That's the thing. And you can really just ignore it if you want to, like I did. But yeah, like, you know, good production values, good writing. The universe is interesting, but it just didn't grab me like a Fallout game per se. Mm. But it would still be like easily like a top 10 game. Just because.
Yeah, I mean, it's Daniel's game of the year. Sucks he's not here to talk about why. But Randy, did you hear anything from why she liked the game particularly, or
Well,
do you not?
From talking to her about it, she's I think on her third playthrough right now.
Wow.
She's just doing a bunch of different stuff. She wanted to make it the first game. She was going to 100%, and then she turned it on the hardest difficulty level, and went, no, never mind, I'm good.
So, like, pre-patch, I think it's like pre-patch that stupid elemental hammer can like break the game.
But all I know that she said is this is her favorite Fallout game.
Yeah.
That says a lot.
Like Mark says, I think it's because it's a lot more contained. That is not as buggy. There's more to do. It's a gorgeous game because while I was playing Death Stranding, she was over there playing The Outer Worlds, and I'd look over, and it's a very colorful, beautiful game. And she was always doing something. It was unlike watching her play like Fallout 4 or whatever, and she's traveling through the wasteland for 10 minutes before she was doing anything. A couple random battles here and there. But I think that with the smaller worlds and stuff that they were able to create, it seemed like she was always in the action. And it honestly kind of tricked her into playing a first-person shooter game, too, which was great.
Yeah, I don't think there's any third-person viewpoint in that game.
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, so... That's fun.
Well, I mean, yeah, so Outer Worlds is another one that's kind of in a few people's lists here, and we'll be talking about it later when we're kind of adjusting things around. A few for me that I haven't talked about. Persona Q2 is sort of the swan song for the 3DS, and what a history that system has by itself. But I mean, yeah, it came out last year in Japan, but this year in the beginning of the summer it comes out here, and I think it iterates well on Persona Q, the first one. This one sadly isn't so much about the other teams as it is about the protagonists of the major Persona games that we have today, the 3, 4, 5, and portable, and it's more focused on 5 because that's what recently came out. But for me, it's still a fantastic strategy RPG, dungeon crawling. The music is great with remix versions of songs from all the games, and it stands out. For me, it's like one of the games I had fun playing. Another one of those like comfort food things that I could just put on. It'd take a while to freaking finish an entire mission or whatever, but when I did, it felt good, and I could be jamming the whole time while I'm playing as well. Baba Is You is a game that will make you feel smart and stupid at the same time. It's basically programming at its core level. Like the rock is you, so you move rock and you make it something else, and that solves the puzzle. Or you could have an entire puzzle that's like 5 different things you got to solve, and you're going around going, how the hell am I supposed to get that to here? And then when you figure it out, you're like, oh my god, wow. But then you get to one where you're like, okay, I'm not solving this. Fuck it, let me go watch a YouTube video because I'm not getting out of here. But still, I mean, I think as far as one of the like coolest experiences of like not knowing what this thing is, you buy it on a Switch store, anything. It's on PC, and I think the other systems too. Of just, it's here. It's this little game. It's like 8-bit, and it challenges you in so many ways that you don't think about. And one that you're going to see me talk about a lot, because I'm a music person, especially when it comes to games, Sayonara Wild Hearts. It's pretty much a music game done all on an album, and it's like 2.5 hours, but what you get to experience is like just psychedelic, crazy shit going on while rhythm game plays out in front of you, and you're so many things. It almost feels like that old like DS game, like Field of Magic or whatever, got hit into a harmonics game with crazy stuff happening at the same time. I just love that game. You can pop it on and still play the songs out of order, even though it's meant to be played in order. and I think each level is its own thing, and it's cool. Like there's platforming, there's running around, and just collecting these little diamonds that show up. There's quick time events where you have to try to shoot something out of there's like so many things going on in one game, and it's very well done. Gotta give you credit for that.
It looks amazing.
Yeah, it definitely certainly looks amazing. The sound production is great. It's if you see it on a sale with all these sales going on right now, I would definitely tell people to pick it up.
It's on the Switch right now for like
Mhm.
$10.
Yeah, that's worth it for the $10 there. You're gonna get a lot out of it on that. We'll talk about listing in a second, but I just want to go through these really quick for the ones that aren't here. We'll talk about Death Stranding later, but Stephanie has Death Stranding as her 9. She has Mortal Kombat 11 as her 8, which this is the game that she's basically chosen to be her stream game for the entire year almost. Like constantly when I see her on Twitter, she is asking someone how you get better at this, or she's using this person or that person. And for that matter, what I've heard a lot about with Mortal Kombat 11 is the story mode is absolutely nuts, and is well worth experiencing on its own.
They always are.
Well, but like that, this one like stands out. I think above the rest of them is what I've gotten out of it. Is like people really are loving this, even though it's a big thing for competitive, and the fatalities are ridiculous and everything else. I've heard the story mode like just really is really good with this, and it leaves it in a spot where they can kind of go anywhere from there, which is I think good for that series in a way. You usually play these, don't you, Mark?
Yeah, but they didn't send me a copy, so screw them.
That'll help, certainly. And Stephanie also has Silent Night Wild Hearts on her number 7. A game we haven't talked... I sort of mentioned for what it does. I think it definitely needs to be on the list just from anything from going from having 2 million concurrent players at once when it basically launches to its ping system, which makes it to where you don't have to play talking to the people at the same time, and also kind of changing the way you play with teams in Battle Royale, Apex Legends. Daniel has it as his number 7, and I just think it was a really important game that came out this year. I played some of it, and it actually made me want to keep playing it. I'm not a Battle Royale person, so I just didn't. I got caught up in other games and other things, and I didn't go back to it, but it's a game I think definitely we're still going to be talking about for a few years, because I feel like that game sort of breathed life back into Battle Royale, because we were starting to get to a point where you either had the people that play Battle Royales all the time, like PUBG and Fortnite, and you had a lot of people that, like, after the Call of Duty Blackout thing, people were starting to get to that point where, like, I think I'm kind of done with Battle Royale. And then between Apex and Tetris 99, I think that kind of brought that back in this year.
What about the Battle Royale mode in Forza Horizon 4?
You know, there is such thing as like too much. I think that's where you get into too much there. So, Mark, talk to me about Judgment.
Yeah, I mean, it's Yakuza. It's the same damn city, for lack of a better word, or, term. Good characters, good story. Not the best improvements, like the free running crap is, like, dumb in that game. But I really like the improvements they made to the fighting. A very different game, like, style of game than Yakuza, but still in the same, basic framework. I mean, Jens liked it too, or you didn't even play it, did you, or did you just touch it?
I've played the first 3 chapters.
Okay, I mean, you played enough. Yeah, like, I think it's really good. Like, I mean, it may not make a best 10 list, but definitely best 25. Like, I think the problem is, I mean, Jens touched upon it when we were talking earlier. It's like there's some Yakuza fatigue because they've been pumping those games out so quickly.
That's the thing. I had just finished Yakuza 6, and I haven't even played Fist of the North Star yet.
Heaven forbid.
I don't think you really need to spend a ton of time playing Fist of the North Star, but yeah.
Oh, that's next on the list.
Your list is bad.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just think it's a clever story, or an interesting one. Yeah, I mean, I like it. I like that the main character is a lot more approachable or interesting than Kiryu was in Yakuza. Like, he's not just an awkward board through most of the game. Like, he has like some personality. Like, whether or not it's good or not is debatable, but he has like a character.
Doesn't this game also have times where it's sort of kind of gets into like Ace Attorney?
I mean, kind of. Like, it has some of that stuff, but it's not like as fully fleshed out as you might want. Like, it has like a bunch of like photo hunts or like pixel hunt stuff, or like, you have to like control a drone and like photograph stuff, like photograph people, but it's all like really awkward. The drone racing is terrible in the game.
Yeah, Yakuza mini games.
Yeah.
Yeah, not all of those are wins most of the time.
Yeah, they have like a House of the Dead basic rip-off game, which is really funny, called like Kamarachu of the Dead, and it's like, yep, I know who made this game. But yeah, that's my kind of thought on it. Like, I don't know if I reviewed it or I maybe got halfway through it, but I'd probably give it like an 8 out of 10.
Would you say it should be on the list?
Well, top 25, yeah. So, but not.
Yeah.
It doesn't need to be like top. It doesn't be like the number 2 game on this list or anything like that. Like, I'm not crazy. And also, I didn't actually finish it because like it makes my PS3 run or my PS4 run so loud. I'm scared to play it.
You can say that for quite a few games on this list. If you're using the original, if you're using the original PS4,
yeah,
yeah.
One of these days, I need to crack it open and just like clean out the fan and be horrified by it, probably.
Jens, you guys might have talked about this on one of the podcasts, but for any people that might just be listening here for the first time on this one, which if you are, thank you. What is Erica?
Oh yeah, I haven't talked about this at all yet. Erica is a full-motion video adventure game about a girl of mysterious birth who's got some kind of magic running in her family and is abducted by an evil cult that wants to make some kind of sacrifice of her, or maybe she's just in an insane asylum. There are all sorts of ways you can read Erica, but eventually, there's a big conspiracy that you're going to uncover, and then you're going to have to make some choices as to whether you're going to take revenge or join them or whatever you're going to do. It's a branching adventure game. The most seamless one I've ever played in my life. The transitions between interactive parts, which you either choose your own adventure type. It's either choose your own adventure type choices, or like light little object puzzles, or hidden object puzzles. But those transitions between those are so seamless that you just forget sometimes even to make an input. The dynamic music integration is really great. The score was by Austin Wintory of Journey fame. And the acting is really good. The story is terrible, but in an enjoyable way. It goes pretty over the top by the end. But I'm just incredibly impressed with how slick and well done and high production value it is. And FMV games are kind of my jam, so it's way up there for me.
It sounds like the same story as Luigi's Mansion 3.
That's, yeah. Well, I mean, you mentioned Luigi's Mansion 3, Mark. I heard a lot of people saying this is their favorite one.
No, I played it. It's good. It's hard. Like, that's my only kind of complaint, but it's just a observation. Yeah, it's fine. I never played the other two, so I can't really judge on those, but I like it.
How is Guigi? Does he help you?
Yeah, you have a lot of puzzles with him. You have to, like, you might have, like, as Luigi, you may have to, like, keep sucking on this plant vine to make a door open, and then you have to send Luigi in to like, oh, he can suck in this plant vine as well to keep the door open, and then you can like move in with Luigi, stuff like that. So it's it's a lot about trying to figure out like, oh, can I use Luigi here, or do we need to like team up and like suck at this big boulder out of the way or stuff like that.
Yeah, so do you like the? Well, you haven't played the other ones to be able to give a difference, but I hear you can like slam the ghosts in this game, so you can.
Yeah, it's very much like Ghostbusters actually. Like you literally that's the main thing you do to like lessen their health. Is you slam them to the ground, and you like keep slamming them, just like Slimer and Ghostbusters.
Well, I mean, obviously there's Ghostbusters illusions in there, but I wonder how the creator feels about that sometimes. Like, just, hey, they took a Ghostbusters game and made it better than the Ghostbusters.
I mean, yeah, you're not getting knocked down for no dumbass reason like in that Ghostbusters game they made, so that's good.
Definitely feel like Luigi's Mansion 3 should be on the list somewhere.
Yeah, I would say probably maybe not top 10 necessarily, but it's solid, and it's nice to, Luigi having a game is always nice.
I don't think it cracked the top 10, maybe low top 10.
Yeah, I mean,
we'll see. There's a lot of games in here still we haven't talked about, so with one of them being one that both you and I liked, Jens. I had it as my 7, you had it as 6. Astral Chain. This is just a really cool game to me.
Yeah.
Like, it's another one of those platinum specials, but I think for what you can do with the Legions, and also you're still controlling your character and the Legion at the same time, and I think how they use that in tandem is great. I really feel like this game is... The story would be so much better if your character talked. I don't know how you feel about that, but...
I'm fine with a silent protagonist.
It's just these emotional moments come, like the dad, that whatever happens to... I don't want to spoil it. Something happens to the dad, and it's just like... The brother says something, and you're kind of just like... I don't know. It's like, when I think about an action game, I look at like Devil May Cry 5 or something like that, and it goes... Action games kind of served better when you have, that character, and that's who they are, and you're playing as that character, and you can still have them like create the character, but I don't know, use voice for something.
I can just imagine that she has hidden depths. Oh.
You just like silent women.
This.
God.
Come on, Mark.
Really,
the story is not really what I'm. I love the anime aesthetics. It's a great anime aesthetics, but the story, I don't really care about with this game. I just like it as the Platinum best of.
Yeah, I mean, let's face it. Except for like Nier Automata, like Platinum isn't really known for their stories.
No, I mean, come on, Bayonetta is.
Yeah, Bayonetta's just good enough. I mean, it's not.
That's the most story, not the best story. There's a difference.
No. Let's not argue about Bayonetta, the greatest game of all time. The thing about this one, it's not their best game by any means, but it takes a little bit from like every other Platinum game, which I think makes it a little bit historically significant. It's like the Platinum sampler platter. You've got kind of the loadouts from Nier, the witch time from Bayonetta is there in some form. You've got kind of the henchman system from Wonderful 101. So it's just like as a here's what Platinum is all about. I think it's a great game. I like the music a lot. If there's one thing wrong with it to me, is that there's too many systems. It sounds like it really clicked for you, Sean.
Oh no, yeah, I loved it. I feel like, especially once you get a hold of the other Legions, and you can kind of customize them the way you want to, build them how you want. I mean, I like the sword one, and I like the beast one. I think the two out of the most, but I wind up using all of them at certain points, and I think
just
that
forget.
yeah.
I can only keep track of so many inputs at one time.
Yeah, I agree. It's a lot.
Yeah.
A lot of times I'd forget that you can control them and do the thing where you wrap around them and like hold them with a chain. Because I'm focusing on my stuff.
Like maneuvering the chain relative to your character with the other stick feels really great.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
The lassoing is like some of the best lassoing I've ever seen in the game.
Yeah, because you feel that like crunch from the chain when it locks in on the enemy or whatever, and the bosses are also really cool in this game too.
Bosses are great. Yeah, if anything, there's almost too much content. I mean, it's a really long game. Lots of side.
And then the end game too has some really challenging stuff at the end. That's not story related. It's just challenges you on the gameplay. It's really good too.
But you know what? I'll concede. Maybe if the protagonist talked, maybe then I would care about the story more. The story to me is so secondary in this.
Yeah, it's true.
But
I mean, I guess that they kind of make it about your other sibling that you don't pick, but still, just. Did you pick the female character too?
Yep.
Okay. We did about the same thing. Well,
female character.
Randy, I kind of mentioned it. I know you didn't play this a ton, but Devil May Cry 5. It's on your list. It's on Stephanie's as well. She has it as her number 5. You have it as your number 4.
Yeah, I got about halfway through it. I'm on like mission 11 or 12, I think, right now. It's just more Devil May Cry, which is fantastic. I have no issues with it. I like that they've added the extra character V, which plays completely different than Nero or Dante ever have in the series, and it kind of mixes things up. I actually like him because he's the one that I can somehow get the better combos with. I suck keeping combos going with Nero, but it's just one of those games. I don't want to say it's beautiful because obviously it's very dark and red and bloody and stuff, but I mean the graphics are fantastic. The action is very smooth, and they've done really a fantastic job of getting that combo system, and the RE engine with Devil May Cry just worked extremely well. And the story is fine. A couple of the side characters that they have on there are pretty funny, but it's basically just there for you to try to look as cool as possible while you defeat enemies.
This game is really corny with the writing.
Yes.
It's funny. Have you seen the videos of them doing the outtakes or whatever? That they kind of. Oh, it's so bad. It's like so bad. It's good thing. It's. No, yeah, I laughed.
That's a Capcom staple right there. Is corny writing. It's what they do.
That's what you want. That's what you come to a Devil May Cry for. That and the combo system.
Yeah.
And I have
so
to
much
say,
flexibility.
I thought that I was going to get really tired of that double trigger song, because every time you get into a fight with Nero, that song just starts over.
Oh, but it's a great song though.
It's
so good.
It's such a good song, and the way it's paced out, it gets you amped up, and then usually if it's a long boss fight or whatever, that the chorus in that song starts hitting and you get into it. It's great.
And I totally agree. It's one of the best looking games this year for sure. The characters look fantastic. The faces look so good.
Yeah. Would agree. I just love all three of the characters are good in their own right. I know a lot of times you have your one favorite, but I didn't mind switching between either of the three at all. They're just all three of them are fantastic, and V is just. I'm sitting there going, really? I'm going to control a panther? I never thought about that, but here we are, 2019, controlling panthers in a video game. So,
I guess you never played Tokyo Jungle.
I played that. I played the part with the dog, the Pomeranian, and that was about it. Yeah. So definitely, Devil May Cry is going to be up there. At least in the middle of the list, if not further. Mark, Control, that's my game of the year. But what? How did you feel? What did you play Control on PC?
I play on PS4.
Oh God.
Which is not ideal.
Yeah,
like,
definitely not.
Except for when I would unpause the game, or when I'd pause and unpause it, it would like hitch for like 5 seconds.
Yeah. Oh.
The only
I'm
reason I didn't
sorry.
play on PC is because it wasn't on Steam. It was on fucking Origin or
Epic.
I'm like, nope. There were several games that missed out on this year because they were on Epic that I'm not gonna.
It's a launcher.
Yeah, it's an unneeded one. Something called Steam already exists. You put their games on that. It's like when people were complaining about the EA Origin launcher. It's like, yeah, once they figured out it failed, they went back to Steam like good boys and girls.
It took them a while, though.
But Mark wants everything on Steam, and he wants every movie made by Disney.
Yep.
He wants it simple.
Well, you can only do that. Just get Disney Plus.
It's so good. I love Disney Plus.
Me too. So, no, I mean, Control for me, I think, was just how much of your enjoyment was hampered by the PS4 problems?
None, really.
Right,
I mean,
right.
I just got used to it. You know, I just pause it when I was not in combat or not in a bad situation, and then it was fine. But other than that, it wasn't the smoothest game, or wasn't the most beautiful game in the world, but it was fine. It's perfectly serviceable.
I mean, on PC, it's pretty good look. It's pretty great looking, and just, I mean, this is just, after Quantum Break was what it was. I think this is totally Remedy coming back to what they do great. It's just this weird storyline that could have been put in X-Files or some other Fringe or something. Along with I like the combat. I know some people don't. I loved switching between the gun, and then when you get the superpowers or whatever, you get to levitate and then throw stuff around and do all that. That was really fun for me.
Yeah, how much of Control have you played? Because I know didn't you just kind of recently buy it? Or
I had played at least 5 or 6 hours at a friend's house, and then I went through and played it again. Bought it, and then I probably played 10 hours or so.
I actually have not beat. I put more time into you, but I actually haven't beaten it. So
yeah,
I'm pretty far into it. I could just.
Oh, but I love the story, and that's another thing too of just including the whole playing stuff I didn't think I would like. Is I like Remedy games, Alan Wake is one of my favorites of ever, and but I'm usually not one of those that likes to go and I collected stuff, let me go read it. But this story was so well done that I wanted to keep reading all the little things that you collect. And the FMVs were fantastic in this.
Oh yeah,
with the doctor dude, just so good. I think.
You mean Alan Wake's voice actor?
Basically, yeah, that's fine. Hey, when you got somebody that good.
It wasn't a dismissive thing. He was pretty funny.
Yeah, oh no, he added a lot of levity to something that's sort of rather serious. Yeah, I think they combined to make a great game, and now I want to see what Remedy does next after this. Do they finally ever get to make another Alan Wake, or is that I know it's a Microsoft thing, so
I think that depends on if they can buy the property back from Microsoft or not, or if they own it. I think they actually do own it though now.
Yeah, I mean that would be cool if they could do it.
They decided to self-publish it back on Steam, so I assume they own it. Let's say that.
Well, Jens, I mean, the Goose Game. I talked about it a little bit, but it's
well,
it's
all know
something.
it's in essence a comedy version of Hitman, with just a really great high concept behind it. But man, it just feels so good to play. The button mapping is really smart. The controls feel very intuitive. It's genuinely hilarious. It just feels good being the Goose.
Yeah, like I like just going
different,
behind them and honking and shit. Like,
Yeah, well, as fun as by the end of the game, the subversive thing of the game, I actually came to like and identify with the townspeople by the end of it. So I did feel, by the final level in particular, made me a little bit sad for the townspeople. But
I mean, he is a bastard, that goose.
yeah,
So
man, it's really great. As I have the exact same complaint as everybody else, which is just such small portions,
yeah, I'm surprised they gotta like be coming with some kind of DLC for that game.
What if you could play as Beaker?
I'd take it. Why not? They showed you how it's done already.
Yeah, I'm just waiting for them to actually get a title before I play.
I really like doesn't the Japanese title translate to "Here Comes the Mischievous Goose"?
Something like that. They said they were supposed to have a title at one point, but they went with that.
Right, to make it fit into the Goat Simulator kind of vein of game.
Oh, but this is like 30 times better than Goat Simulator, so.
Oh yeah, but I mean, just there's like a certain style of marketing, that kind of things that you market as simulator over a year, Goose Simulator 2019 or whatever.
Yeah, this is one of the games that I like. Hey, it didn't take you very long to beat on Switch or whatever, but it's just, I feel like Goose Game might be one of those games that you are talking about in a few years of just, hey, this came out and there was people playing it that I think don't play games just because you tell them you can play with a goose and they're like, sign me up, let's do it.
I don't think I'll ever forget making that poor kid rebuy his own toy airplane.
Yeah, that was sad. Poor kid. He didn't deserve it, but hey, you're a goose. You got to do what you got to do.
Check off that list.
Well, I'm going to talk about a different animal, and this case, one where you play as a gorilla, an ape. In fact, that just wants to get out and destroy things and destroy people. In fact, and what makes this game is also very short, but it's also very hard.
Talking about Rampage?
No, not that shitty movie.
Rampage is an old arcade game.
Well, I know that too, but more recently, that shitty movie that The Rock just had to be in, I guess.
Yeah.
He redeemed himself with Jumanji 2, so that's fine. Or 3, I guess.
Yeah.
But Ape Out, I think, it's one of those developer games that I don't know how they do this. Whatever developers they get, they know how to use music very well, and they do that tremendously with this game. It's all about that. They use jazz drums, and it's all made to go to how you play this game depends on what sound comes out when you smack the guy's body against whatever. And you actually make a song as you go through. You're not hearing it right then, but you're sort of making a song as you go through and kill all these guys or escape or whatever. One of my favorite things was getting to grab objects and then just throwing at them and like taking out 5 or 6 guys at once. That was awesome. It's another one of those, like, it came out and you get it on Switch and it was just a fantastic little game that I enjoyed the hell out of and can come back to and play again just because it's so good and entertaining for what it is. In that same way, I think Katana Zero nailed that. It has great music, and then you also get to talk. I didn't put it on my list, but I just wanted to mention it. Of just, it's a game where you use a fast forward function, and you get to be awesome and kill things, but you also have a therapist that you talk to at the same time. So, different kind of side game than it's kind of like the Messenger in a way of having this funny little thing that you have to do as an aside along with your action that you do. So Talk to me about Fallen Order here. Star Wars Fallen Order, Mark.
Yeah,
what's
it's good.
great?
I mean, it's a lot like, it's Dark Souls light combat mixed with like Tomb Raider or Uncharted. Great production value, like good acting by Cameron Moynihan and others. Good combat. I mean, yeah, I would say like definitely top 10 at least. Because that's like the first, according to EA, it's the best Star Wars game in the past decade. Which is funny because they've made the past few Star Wars games.
Yeah, EA just doesn't want you to remember that they've made other Star Wars games in the past decade.
Yeah, they're all shit. Yeah, I mean, that's the game that's currently taking up all my time, considering all the other games I'm supposed to be playing right now. Yeah, it's actually like it's a good analog to Control, because I mean, it's like the same type of Metroidvania type of game, where like, you can't open this door until you get like, the Scomp Link, or you can't open this door until you get a double jump, or you can't get to this platform until you get a double jump, like Control. So like these 3D Metroidvanias that are coming out are pretty good. Maybe not quite as good as the 2D ones, but they hold their own. And yeah, I think it's really great.
Daniel has Borderlands 3 as his number
Nope.
5. Yeah.
Denied.
Nope.
Like the actual gameplay is fine, more or less. Like it might have some confusing maps here and there.
I hate
but
the map.
the problem with the game is the
Well,
writing.
Jens said he hates the map. Why?
Well, he
Why?
has more problems than I do.
Oh, okay.
There are times when I cannot figure out how the planes of the level connect with each other.
Yeah.
That's bad.
Like, it's a three-dimensional map, but even like turning it around and looking at it from different angles, I'm like, what the fuck? How am I? What? And then, Mark will be on the other side of the map, and I'll just like, oh, I'll just kill myself, spawn where he is. It cost me $7,000 or whatever.
I offered to pay it back. You just never want to take me up on it. The problem really is the writing. Like, it's the same
Oh my
shitty
God.
writing as Borderlands 2, this like magnified by like 10 times. So there's no. I guess like Lilith is okay as a character, but she's like the only redeeming character in that entire game. Everyone else is just kind of an abrasive asshole, and that's like the best character trait. Like the two twins are terrible. What they've done to Vaughn is a crime against humanity, because he was pretty good in Tales from the Borderlands. Yeah, every character is just this big brain jackass, and it's like, please just stop talking. Like,
And they never stop talking.
thankfully, you can turn on the voice volume, because if not, we would have stopped playing this game ages ago.
Wow, it's
No, I
that
turned it
bad.
back up because I was not, Then you get to unskippable parts where you're just sitting there.
Yeah, it has like a bunch of just like story beats that just go on for like way too long. Like
So like my original goal of, okay, I'm just going to turn all the dialogue off in this game and enjoy dialogue free, did not work out, because as soon as you got to one of those, I'm like, okay, I'm just standing around here for 2 minutes and missing out on content.
Yeah. So like the gameplay, if they had a better writing, writer, get like Hideo Kojima to write it, then that might be interesting.
Oh God, could you imagine where that would go?
Yeah.
Top of the list. Thank
Be a
you.
lot funnier.
Or get Swery to write it or something, or Yoko Taro.
Yes.
That'd be pretty good.
No, just get somebody who's not a total bro Seth MacFarlane wannabe.
Yeah.
Poor man
It
Seth
is-
MacFarlane.
No.
Ouch.
There are occasional Seth MacFarlane jokes that are funny. Like you're insulting Seth MacFarlane by comparing him to Randy Pitchford.
So I'm saying poor man's.
Yeah. But yeah.
Well, Randy Pitchford, it's been owned here.
It's a real magic trick from Pitchford once again.
So y'all's consensus is no,
Yeah.
nowhere. Okay.
Like the game, like I said, the gameplay is fine, but it's
Purely
just-
as a Borderlands game, it's a bigger, better Borderlands. Other than the fact that the menus are pretty laggy, even after the patch, they still lag sometimes.
yeah.
They were super
How does a
laggy
menu
before.
lag? It's a menu.
They
Well, it just takes
they found a
seconds
way.
to open. And
Yeah.
tabs.
Like it would take
You
it would take like 5 seconds to for the menu, or for like just the main menu to open, let alone like switching between like menu and inventory and quest log and stuff like that.
So it makes comparing loot, which is kind of the main thing in the game, a real pain.
Right.
Well, I'm sure Randy is going to make some joke here or something, because he lit my ire about this game as I'm sitting here playing it. So Stephanie and Daniel both have it as their number 6. I have it as my number 5, Pokemon Sword and Shield. I don't know which ones they play particularly, but I had Pokemon Sword. And yes, this is, at its heart, it is more Pokemon. As every other freaking Pokemon game in the mainline series has been. But I think when you have a franchise like that, it's not necessarily about, well, we're going to go out and not every franchise can go out and be Breath of the Wild. And Pokemon, I think it still has its childish audience that it needs to placate to, no matter how old we get as the Gen 1ers that are out there. All they can really do, at least for now, I think if Pokemon ever got time to be off, right, to get an Assassin's Creed, like get a couple years off or whatever, Pokemon's in that same problem with like Far Cry and some other game series that like they feel like this has to constantly come out every year, even if it's continually diminishing returns. And I think Pokemon Sword and Shield it's not that. It's actually a really good step in a first iteration on the Switch. The Galar region is great. They absolutely played up that region with adding in the soccer stadium stuff and the crowds chant when you do the Gigantamax or Dynamax, whatever. Yeah, it's a gimmick just like all the other gimmicks that Pokemon has, but it works for that place. And I think that's what stands out about this game is like this region is terrific. Yeah, they took out a bunch of Pokemon, but the ones that they added are all really good. I kind of kept myself only playing with the new ones, and I found myself like switching in and out all the time. And the wild area is a total revelation for what Pokemon could be. If they could make the wild area more of a bigger deal in the next game, or do something, maybe the whole area, the whole world is like that, where it's just one big area that connects to these different towns and you have to constantly get in and out of it. It's not totally optional because you have to visit at least 3 times to get through the story, and it's a great way to level up your party also, because you get to just be out there and see different weather patterns, and you only get to catch certain Pokemon in those weather areas depending on what day it is and all that kind of stuff. So I think they did a lot that's really good for Pokemon, of whether it's a year or 2 from now, of how they can improve it on the Switch. But there's a lot of good to take out of, along with yes, there is, this game was rushed, and you can tell, especially in certain places where they particularly didn't care about making a lot of different trees, and the game chugs when you do the raids with different people. As soon as the water is populated by people, that game chugs, because I don't think that the Switch really can deal with having a lot of stuff on screen. This happens in other games too. It's how it is with the Switch. It's not a huge upgrade in hardware like the systems are. So for this being the first iteration of Pokemon on Switch that we knew they weren't going to change a whole lot of, I think this does a great job for what it is. Daniel and Stephanie aren't here to talk about their piece on it, but that's just how I feel about it. I think they did it, for the most part, it's still an enjoyable game that iterates instead of going backwards. So, moving along here, Remnant from the Ashes, you talked about it a little bit, Mark, but why is this game so high on your list? I think it's one that you don't see a lot of other people talking about.
Yeah, it's because they aren't skilled as players. I like I said, I think it has good environments. Like it has an interesting world, like where you may be trying to survive. I just really like the gameplay. Like I said, like the ranged combat is good. It's a little weird. You can only have two party members, not 3, like a traditional 4-player co-op game. But the fact that you can like re-roll the world to keep all your gear and skills is pretty good. I think Jens had a problem with the bosses. Like, bosses are really kind of the same. Like, there's always like a big boss, but they always spawn in like a bunch of ads and stuff, sometimes endlessly.
That's the deal breaker.
I thought they were mostly fine. Like, there was like 1 or 2 bosses that were like really annoying, but you could say the same thing about most Dark Souls bosses, I think.
Most Dark Souls bosses do not spawn endless mobs of exploding little guys.
They're still annoying, so...
Not at all in the same way.
Like, I know, Jens will fight passionately for Code Vein, and even, like, the Surge 2 is probably like a better traditional Dark Souls game, or Dark Souls, like, one of those types of games, but I just really fell in love with Remnant. I can't wait to see more, or I wish I could really play it on PC to, like, really develop a cheat engine with it and really have some fun. But yeah, I could pretty much go back to that game ever if I really got into it. Like, I find it, like, infinitely replayable, like, a Binding of Isaac, or, like, a Spelunky or something.
Fair enough. Both Stephanie and Jens have Code Vein listed on their top 10s here. For me, it was a game I fell off pretty hard because I like the anime aesthetic, but it just made me realize that Dark Souls is just not for me. It's just not for me.
Well, play Remnant. You make you like that one then.
No, I don't want Dark Souls in a shooter. I feel like I can do things in a melee game that I don't think I can. You have to be really on your toes in that thing. You're constantly under fire from all sorts of directions, and it's hard as hell. So I don't understand why Mark loves it so much. It just feels like a shooter where you have to be super careful and precise all the time, which I don't like to do in a shooter. I like to do that in a Dark Souls game.
Yeah, it's the same thing. Like the same. You like to do it when you're in melee combat, where the guy can easily get the drop on you better than in ranged.
But then it's all about blocking and dancing around them and all that stuff.
Yeah, it's about when you're blocking on every corner, like you walk around because you may get jumped by some guy you don't know he's there.
Right. So this just totally comes down to personal preference.
Yeah.
I heard Sean on the last podcast talk about how he didn't like the map in Code Vein, and that to me is crazy because I love the map in Code Vein. I love how it tracks your footsteps through the map so you can always see exactly where you're going, where you came from, which areas you've been in before.
Even with the footsteps, I couldn't tell because the map, when you're going through that area itself, because those enemies keep coming back, I'm just kind of like, well, have I been here before? Have I not? I was confused. So I was just like, you know what? I don't want to have to keep watching a YouTube video to figure out where I'm going. So, whatever. But I like the other things about it. It's just, I don't know.
Man, I did not get lost very much in that game. I think that game is one of the best and most straightforward maps.
I love the different how you gain abilities in that game.
Oh yeah, We'll get to
that's
that
good.
When we get to my top 2, because this is a game that really knows how to encourage you to swap up playstyles all the time.
Well, go ahead, because Stephanie has it as her number 4. So.
All right. Yeah. Okay. So I'll just talk about Code Vein, I guess. The last time Mark and I talked about it, I had only heard the soundtrack. That was kind of my gateway into Code Vein. And then shortly after, Mark made me aware of the fact that there was a sale, so I grabbed it. And I've been basically just playing it religiously ever since. I've put as much time into this as I did into Fire Emblem or Death Stranding, yet the time has just flown by relative to those games. Like, it hasn't felt... Like, it's felt like I've been playing Fire Emblem all year, yet I've put just as much time into Code Vein, and it just feels like, maybe 10, 20 hours. Because this is, we talk about comfy blankets, this is combat that feels really more like classic, like Demon's Souls or first Dark Souls than any other game I've played. Definitely the closest to a Souls feel I've gotten outside of From Software in terms of just the basic feel of the combat. But then the systems on top of it, of course, are much friendlier than anything From would ever do, right? You get constant AI companion who's pretty darn helpful. You get that map, which I love, and makes you feel like an explorer because, it's the uncovering of the map is kind of a twofold thing where first you will trace the outlines of the map in footsteps, and then eventually when you find the smaller missiles and activate them, it starts uncovering the map. So, and the overlap between those two things is kind of interesting. Like, sometimes you'll uncover an area where you weren't yet, and it's like, okay, I haven't been over here, and I see there's a corridor, so I'm going to see how I get there, kind of thing. It's just, the exploration feels great. But, as you already spoke to, Sean, this is a game that lets you respec all the time. You constantly earn new classes. You constantly earn new loadouts. You will want to, switch classes all the time. Because, when you play with a new class, you learn the skills from that class, and you can then inherit those skills. Mm-hmm. And after you inherit a skill, you can then use that skill with another class. So it becomes a thing where you just kind of keep cycling through. You want to be using all the skills to level them up and kind of just catch them all, so to speak. This is actually, man, considering how frustrated you are by just getting around in this game, like, I'm trying to actually 100% it because the skills are, and also the best ending are kind of tied to the collectibles.
Right.
And I have uncovered 100% of all the maps. I just haven't found all of they're called vestiges. They're like little memory fragments that you collect. And every time you turn one of those memory fragments to Io, who is a lady in your control room.
Yeah, the lady with the white hair.
Base. Yeah, you'll get a little flashback where you walk past a bunch of memories. And you get a new skill unlocked most of the time. So I've been trying to get all of those. It's just an utter delight from a playstyle customization standpoint. And
has a really great character creator, too.
The character creator is amazing. My only complaint about the character creator is that you cannot independently control your breasts and your legs. Like, you scale them up and down together. So you can't make somebody who's like very thick. Anyway,
I don't need to get into weird fetish right now.
Okay.
Anyway, the point is, there's hours and hours of tragic anime backstory here to discover. I mean, like, a lot. There's actually just an insane amount. Like, every character in your base, every one of you're a bunch of do-gooder vampires who are trying to heal the world. It's a crazy anime story. But everybody has their own tragic backstory where something terrible happens that they have to get over, and you're just kind of putting the world back together in a way, healing the world.
At its core, it's anime Dark Souls. Yeah.
Yep. But, man, I love the level designs. There are some levels, like there's a level called the Cathedral of Sacred Blood, which is just this brilliant, like, symmetrical but brilliantly folding in on itself labyrinth that is visually reminiscent of... do you remember the clean white sky castles of Dark Souls 2 and 3? That's kind of what it looks like, but it's just this labyrinthine construct.
I don't think anyone else here has played Dark Souls.
Okay.
I think Mark tries to forget most of Dark Souls anyway.
Yes.
Right. So it's like the nicest, to me it's the easiest, and it's like playing Dark Souls after you've done a lot of grinding. Like, it feels a lot more relaxing. The bosses can still be tough. The final boss is a fucker. But, it's just a friendlier, more flexible Dark Souls. So it's kind of exactly what I want.
Okay, so is that the reason why Stephanie has it as her number 3, and she loved it when she reviewed the game? It's obviously, one game of the year.
Well, it's like her catnip, because it's anime and vampires. What more do you want?
No, I'm not talking about Code Vein. I'm talking about why he didn't have Sekiro. Shadows Die Twice.
Sekiro, to me, strays too far from the Souls formula. Sekiro it's more of a stealth game. You don't really have different. You level up one weapon. There are all sorts of mechanical differences, and I just didn't get that into it. Like I got into Code Vein.
Sure.
But to each their own,
I love the Japanese history aspect of it. If it wasn't because it was Dark Souls, I kind of want to just like go and watch the game, maybe, just to get that part of it. But like I've seen some of the battles and they're amazing. Some of the bosses are pretty cool for Sekiro, but yeah, it's obviously a game that a lot of people loved this year. Some people didn't, obviously, like you said, Jens. So that one's going to be
I might
interesting.
still go back to it. I just kind of fell off it, so I just have to make myself at some point hunker down and actually play it.
I don't know that there's much more to say about Tetris 99. I don't know if you guys want to say anything else about it.
It's still cool. I mean, it's not on my list, but I liked it.
It's the game I never knew I wanted, but it's that game I go to. It's like I have 20 minutes.
Yep, it's the forever game.
Yep. Have you ever got to number one spot?
Yes, I've won it a couple times.
Okay.
I've done 2. I've done number 2 so far. But I can't stop playing it. At its core, you've got a really good, competent Tetris game, and then that 1 versus 100 concept just adds irresistible stakes to it, right? And yet somehow, there's no shame in losing in the 1 versus 100. So it's never as disheartening to me as other competitive games.
Yeah, I think the thing that works so great with Tetris 99 is, I mean, with I played PUBG with friends and stuff, and there'd be times where you'll finish 15th and you've played 40 minutes. With Tetris 99, the game's going to take 5 minutes.
Yep.
And you win. And so it's really quick. So like you said, you never feel bad that you finish 60 seconds because it's like, all right, you just hold A, and 10 seconds later you're in another game, and 3 minutes later you're out of that one. It's just a lot of intense Tetris play that I found was a perfect mix.
Yeah, I'm not I enjoyed Tetris Effect because I could kind of play Tetris in my own way with awesome music last year, but I'm not that great at Tetris where I could do a battle royale, so that was not a game I was going to play at all. A game I did play a little bit of that Mark seems to have loved a lot, Bloodstained Ritual of the Night. Unless you played it on Switch, then, whatever. But, Mark, what is great about Bloodstained?
They made a modern Castlevania. Fantastic music, because they got the girl from Castlevania to do it.
Of course.
Really good, improvements or differences to the weapon system. Like, you don't just have a whip or sword. You have, the summon gems, all the devil gems, essentially. Or shards, really. But you can play that game a lot of different ways. There are some builds that completely break it, which are a lot of fun to use if you know what you're doing. Decent enough story. And, yeah, classic Metroidvania.
Do you like the art style?
I mean, it's okay. It's not my favorite. I like the chunky look of Symphony of the Night more. But, this is a lot more detailed, obviously, because it's 3D and 20 years newer. But it works enough. It looks better than that initial trailer, for one. That looked bad, I thought. But this holds its own.
I played that first level, and I was surprised at how fast. Just in that first level alone, you get a lot of different weapons, and it lets you play how you want to very quickly. Instead of, I thought you were going to be kicking and, hitting people with that dagger for most of the game or whatever. And the fact that you get a whip, a claymore, a sword, and I don't know how many other things, all within that first level if you explore.
Yeah, that pirate ship place.
Yeah, that was really cool to me. It lets you play how you want really fast. So
and
that's
you
fun.
You've barely seen anything. You get so many crazy weapons in that game that, the stuff you're playing with even now is wow. That stuff was
Well, like
worthless.
even like the magic would replenish really fast, which I know in the older games you didn't get to use the abilities that much. So
I mean, you did. You just had to kind of spec in that direction, and like, all right, now I have to equip like the Mystic Pendant to get magic back and all this other crap.
right. So
But yeah, I think it's like top 10. Like it's like the one big Kickstarter game that actually works well, or came out that didn't completely implode.
that's fair enough, I think.
Like Mighty Number 9 or Star Citizen and all that other crap.
Oh well, that's.
Or you remember Ukulele?
That
Hey,
came
you-
out.
Yeah,
Randy
that was
liked
also
it.
Good.
It was good. It was a little bit too old school for
Hey,
today, but Ukulele was a very fun game. Stop it.
And
Are you
it
the guy
did,
that
and it
also
did well
likes-
enough. It got DLC.
Aren't you the guy that also likes Conquer quite a bit, or is that
No,
someone else?
That's
Robert. I hate Conquer.
Oh, okay.
I hate Conquer.
yeah. I mean, Banjo. That's another thing.
Banjo's my boy.
Yeah, you can
Especially
go
that
play him
car
in
one.
Smash.
We don't talk about the car one.
You mean the good one?
It is a great game in its own right.
What, Nuts and
Yeah.
Bolts?
Yeah.
Yeah, it is a good game in its own right. I agree. It's
But,
maybe
yeah.
not.
But Bloodstained, I mean, I'd say in the top 10, but I mean, I could see why it might not be, because there were just a bunch of other good games that are probably more popular. Like,
Well, I talked a little bit about Outer Wilds. I think I just love how that thing. It's a Groundhog Day sort of story, but like how you get to explore that world and meet different characters and learn about your past along with like the history of your people along with the history of those people that you're going to. The music is fantastic in that game. It's not like the graphics aren't out of this world or whatever. They're kind of cartoony or like a 3D sort of in that way, but just from being from an indie developer, just like Disco Elysium, which it's not on anybody's list, but
I mean, I played 20 minutes of it, so that's not exactly enough to warrant a judgment either way.
Did you die yet?
No, I just found a shoe.
Okay.
shoot. That's good right there. Another game I enjoy a lot, it's my number 3, is Slay the Spire. Look, I'm not a person that likes roguelikes very much, and until this year where I played SteamWorld Quest and this game, I didn't really know I liked card games where you are doing something else besides playing a card game. So, what I loved about this game as opposed to SteamWorld, which SteamWorld has like the characters that have to combine in order to make this just gives you, here's your deck, and your enemy's going to tell you what you have to do, and you have to figure out a way to stop him from attacking you. And if you can't, you got to try to way to like diminish his attack so it doesn't kill you or really damage you or whatever, so you can go on the next turn and try to really damage him, and you go on, and it's a different route every time, so it's cool, and you also unlock different characters. I just really, really enjoy this game, and it's a game you can it's on Switch, it's on, everything, but it's on Game Pass too if you have that. It's a game you can pull out there really quick and play, and I just found it really enjoyable, in that it's a card game that I think is going to be the way that maybe card games go from now on. I mean, we've seen so many of these card games that are, in the traditional sense, kind of go down this year. I think this is going to be the way you're going to see it continue on, and Slay the Spire kind of leads the way in that context. Well, a game that I think almost is unanimous in how much it is loved by everybody here is Resident Evil 2 Remake. It's everybody that voted for it has it as their number 2.
Just like the Game Awards.
Yeah, basically.
It got nominated for a bunch, but didn't win anything.
Well, I mean, I think this game is now, I think, the standard of when I think of a remake, I think about Resident Evil 2. Like, it's just, I never wanted to play a Resident Evil game, but I played this game, and now I wanted to go back and play the Resident Evil games because this one is so good and just so well done. The map is one of the best things I think they improved upon. It's just, you can clearly see where you have been and where you have not been, and whether you got stuff in there or something, or you didn't. Randy, why did you love Resident Evil that much?
Well, I mean, Resident Evil 2, like the original, was one of my top 10 favorite games of all time. I mean, I speedrun that game a little bit. I'm not great at speedrunning it, but I just love playing that game over and over. So hearing that they were finally remaking this, because they did such a great job with the original, with the first Resident Evil remake, was fantastic. I was so excited, and I'm both like thrilled that it came out, and it went well above my expectations of what they were going to do. But it's still, as a big fan of Resident Evil 2, a little disappointed that they didn't go even farther with it. The RPD is probably the best location in video games this year, especially once you get Mr. X, and it's so fantastic. There's just little things everywhere, and like once you finally start getting comfortable with it, Mr. X says, "No, you're not comfortable. I'm chasing you everywhere except for Sabrins." But the thing that I was a little disappointed with this game was they have the two scenarios, the A and the B, which was revolutionary back in, what, it was a 97 when the original game came out, where you had both characters, you play as one and then you play as the other one, and it's supposed to be at the same time. So if there's a couple sections where if you pick up an item, the item won't be there. And I don't think they fleshed it out as much here in the remake. I was like, you're on the PlayStation 4 now. This should be your chance to really be able to open this up. And instead, you play as Leon and you get through the game, and then you start the Claire campaign, and you're doing the same puzzles, and you're going to the exact same rooms. And other than one place where you kind of go in a different direction, like in the original, you're almost playing the same game. And that part was disappointing. And the second half was a little underwhelming, but that's all Resident Evil games. But the RPD was so good that it makes up for all of the other nitpicky things that I find in that game.
Mark?
Yeah, I mean, I liked the first one too. Like, I even read the stupid Resident Evil 2 novelization as a kid. Yeah, I think it was a great remake. The only part I actually just didn't like was, I mean, I didn't really care about the A/B zapping system that much, because I thought that was just kind of weird in the first game, or the first iteration. I really didn't like the Sherry stuff in this game, like the whole bad stealth game when you're hiding from the chief. It's like, oh man, this is bad. Like, that's the only time I actually died in the game. Like, I died multiple times. But yeah, I think the combat worked really well. Mr. X was good. I can't wait for that Resident Evil 3 remake.
Yes,
next year.
Joke.
Yeah, the police. The map is, like you said, the map is really good. Like, okay, it's like, all right, I found this door that has a diamond etched in it. And it's like, okay, it marks it on the map. So now that I have this stupid diamond key, I can go back to this door and see what is going on. Yeah, the only other problem. I mean, I thought they went far enough. Except the only other problem was they should have, like that stupid EGM hoax, years ago. They should have put Akuma in the game so you can play as him.
I really like how they did the zombies as well. Like they look so fucking awesome, and just with the graphics upgrade and everything, and it made me have to learn, like, oh, I don't have to shoot these things in the head. I can just, let's shoot him in the leg, and then the leg blows up, and then he walks really slow or whatever, and they did that really well too. Like this. It doesn't feel like you're running out of ammo or whatever, but they make you have to think about it, and I think that kind of adds to the survival horror part of the game too. So I just think they really did this game, like, if somebody that's coming into it new, I enjoyed it even though I don't have that nostalgia, and I think that's something that speaks a lot.
Yeah, it's really good for new players. I kind of want to check out Resident Evil 7 right now because I know it's very much based on that game engine and see how it's different or it's the same.
Randy liked it.
Yeah, it plays completely different. I mean, that's a first-person game. And it kind of, the same situation with 7 happens with 2, where the first half of that game is beyond good, and then it kind of trails off a little bit. The last hour or 2 of that game is a little rough. It gets a little too action-based.
Before I tackle that,
but 7 was really, really good. And again, that engine is fantastic. But like you said, Sean, this game was perfect for super fans like me and newcomers like you, where like there's not a lot of lore to learn from in the Resident Evil series. I mean, there is over the whole thing. There's videos all over YouTube if you want to get into the craziness of Wesker and the T-Virus and all of that. But as far as just the single game, you're not going to get 20-minute cutscenes. They're all hidden in little notes that you can find if you care enough. And my favorite thing is they kept the nostalgia of the map. I mean, the RPD for the most part was almost identical to the original, but all of the puzzles were different. The mapping, like the way you go around the RPD was completely different. So it was both new for even like hardcore fans like I am of the game. So they did it so well, and that's why I hate to call it a remake, because really all they remade was the base of the story, which there's not a ton in this game. Other than that, they really changed a ton and made it a completely different experience, which was fantastic.
Well, lots of glowing praise of Resident Evil 2, so we know we're going to be discussing it in that top 5 realm when we get there. Mm-hmm. And finally we get to our games of the year, I guess. These will all be in here somewhere. We'll have to iron out exactly where when we get to that. But so Stephanie has Final Fantasy XIV Shadowbringers as her game of the year. She talked about this a lot, about loving it. Of course, many people that are huge fans of Final Fantasy XIV when it made its comeback have been saying this is the best expansion of all of them. It does a lot for Final Fantasy XIV and where it's going to go from there. Daniel has Outer Worlds, which you already talked about. Go ahead, sorry.
No, I was just going to say, to me, I mean, Shadowbringer sounds fantastic, but can it really be Game of the Year if it's just an expansion?
It can.
I think it could, but none of us have played it, so none of us can really defend it or even talk about it.
It'll be in the list, but it'll probably be low because Stephanie's not here to defend herself.
It has a near automated raid, and that's cool, and it has good music. But that's about it. Like the gameplay is probably the same as.
I mean, to me, I just look at expansions as super big DLCs.
What's funny is Monster Hunter last year was one of the talks of the town, and I hear nobody talking about Iceborne.
That's because everyone's waiting for it to be on PC.
Yeah.
I think the problem is also no one really was playing Monster Hunter. It seemed like this year, except for the super fans of it. Like it didn't have that consensus that the first one did.
There's just too many games too. It's just, do you really have the time to put in the Monster Hunter when you're playing all these other things? Monster Hunter came out at a perfect time last year when there was nothing else really going on.
Maybe if it had better multiplayer, I would have played it more.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that multiplayer was terrible. So Daniel, he has Outer Worlds as his, which we already talked about. With it being on some of you guys' lists as well. Mine's Control, which we talked about. Of course, here we go. Probably what's going to be the battle when we get to the actual list. But Jens and Mark, the only repeats, the only people that have 2 of the same game of the year, Fire Emblem 3 Houses.
We're on the correct side of history.
I already feel bullied, and I haven't even started to talk on
Tell me about why Fire Emblem 3 Houses is great. What makes it stand out, over the other Fire Emblems that have been, on 3DS and lauded for what they do?
I can't judge on that, actually. I mean, Jens might have more on that, but
Same beautiful tactical combat system, but with a whole bunch of Persona layered on top of it.
Oh, well, that helps a lot.
You know? So I've only played through it once so far as a loyalist to Our Lady Edelgard, of course. So I've probably only seen like a third of what this game even has to offer. The amount of content of it is insane. I've put about 80 hours into it, I think. I've seen one branch of the narrative and about a third of the character arcs, but of just the stuff I've seen, it is my favorite story this year, my favorite characters, the first proper strategy game that I've even finished in years. As I've talked about earlier, it was a huge part of my routine this year. I played this kind of slowly over the course of months. But, you know, I feel the same way about this that I feel about, like, Trails in the Sky or Chrono Trigger. It's just one of those essential experiences that is going to stick with me for a really long time. And that I'm going to think about regularly, like, I should replay that.
Well, Chrono Trigger is my favorite game of all time, so you're making that kind of comparison. I feel like I need to check it out or something.
Mark, back me up here.
Yeah, it's good. I mean, I know it has changed from the traditional Fire Emblem, because I think Fire Emblem, they had this, like, Trinity wheel, like, Trinity.
Yeah, they took out the Trinity, the weapon Trinity system.
Like, for me, I found the game really easy, and, like, for the most part, actually. That might be why like, you can actually finish it pretty, like, there are, like, hard and maddening modes on it, but, like, most weapons are pretty effective against others. I mean, there's, like, a few classes that, like, are weak against certain things, but for the most part, you have a pretty decent shot against most enemies in the game. I think most of the characters are really good. Like, there are some standouts, obviously, but there are some that aren't quite as developed, but, like, I'd say 80% of that cast is really memorable. Like, it reminds me of, like, a Suikoden game in that respect. I think the class stuff is really good, like the teacher stuff.
So which houses did you guys go with?
Well, he picked
Black
Eagle. Yeah, I picked initially Golden Deer, then I did a Black Eagles run, the evil route, and then I did I'm doing a blue, whatever they are, the blue guys,
whatever.
Yeah, the blue.
I'm doing them right now as well.
Yeah. And I'm like halfway through that one. I haven't hit the time skip yet, but yeah, I like recruiting characters. It's really fun to, like, level them up. I think there are some not explained well systems in the game. Like, me and Jens had instances where, I asked him a question and he's like, "Oh, you just do this. You just press this button or you just go to this system." And then, I talked to him later and I was like, "So how do you find, like, finding out, talking to people?" And he's like, "You can do that." Like, there's
not that. Making them talk to each other, which was like it was just in a menu, which I didn't expect social. I didn't expect, like, story conversations to be in the main menu. It's weird.
Yeah, and I had some issue where, like, I think it was, like, changing classes or something, or so, like, certain things in the game aren't explained well.
You didn't know about gear, right? You didn't know the gear menu.
Yeah, that was it. Or gear and abilities. Like, I didn't know you could change out your abilities or your, like, passive abilities. I'm like, oh. I thought it kept saying, like, oh, you got plus 10 avoidance or you got plus 10 whatever. I was like, I guess it just keeps stacking, but it's like, nope, you only got 4 slots and pick whatever you want to fit in there. So the fact that I didn't even know about that stuff and I could still easily blitz through that game should tell you something.
Well, it felt well balanced to me because I made a lot of bad choices along the way. So you can screw yourself up with the social stuff now in the ways that you couldn't in previous Fire Emblems, but it's still, I guess, it's overall probably the easiest Fire Emblem I've played. I've just played a couple of the 3DS ones, like Awakening and whatnot.
Also, there are, like, certain characters that, like, just make the game, like, ridiculously easy, like Catherine or Shamir. Like, they can just steamroll everyone, it seems like. Except for, like, the Death Knight guy or whatever.
Shamir is a good archer, but is she really better than Bernie?
Oh, yeah. Trust me on this one. But yeah, I even bought the season pass. I got it for free, but I've still bought it because it would have been a good deal if I got it, the real thing. And it's a game, I mean, I'll pretty much always have installed on my Switch because, I can always go back to it and load it up and, go for tea time or pet a cat or whatever, do whatever.
All right, before we get too in the weeds on Fire Emblem, Randy, here you go. Death Stranding, your game of the year.
The weeds. No, for me, we talk about all these other games as far as game of the year, and the reason why Death Stranding is my game of the year is the fact that all these other games we've talked about are sequels, or like we've said, Dark Souls like a lot on this list, or another Battle Royale game, or another sequel, or another remake, or it's like this game. There's nothing that I have ever played that is like Death Stranding. Which is also why I totally understand if somebody plays it and hates it, because it is completely different. I honestly, like, with all of the videos that came out throughout the year, went into this game going, I'm going to play this for 5 hours, and go, no, it's not for me. It just looks so weird. And yes, it is basically a walking simulator. And I figured I'd play it for 5 hours, and Haley would play it, and then just play it forever. And it was the exact opposite. She got about 5 hours in and went, nah, not for me. And I'm 70 hours in, which is a long time for me. I don't get a ton of time to play video games, and I just couldn't stop playing this thing. Basically, you are connecting America again and going through it, and it's such a hard game to explain anyways, because it's Kojima. It's Kojima Unchained, basically. So there's a lot of craziness in it, and the story is a little over the top at times, and the names of characters are super simple and basic and kind of funny. But the message that he tells in the story about bringing the community back together, bringing people back together, and it has nothing to do with violence. And you could go through that whole game without shooting a gun. And actually, the fighting sections of this game are probably the weakest part of the whole game, because they become really, really simple. It's the hardship of the traversal, which the beginning of that game, like walking on flat ground, you'll just trip. So you're like holding on to the two trigger buttons, trying to keep balance, and you're like, what is this game? I can't even walk. This is nuts. But I think he put that in there to when you do start connecting the network and connect with other players who have built things, it makes you appreciative, and then you want to help somebody else. It's the weirdest multiplayer game I've ever played, because you never see anybody, but you interact with them so much, and it's always a positive, which is what Kojima's whole point of this game is. It's a positive influence on other people. And once you get to the second area of the game, like, I don't want to spoil a lot, and I'm trying to be as big as possible, because if you are interested, like, I don't want to give too much away, but once you kind of get to that mid-America area where things really open up and you can start building roads, and the zip lines kind of break the game, but in the best way possible, it really makes you appreciate, like, all of this extra work, because it really is. You look at this and you go, okay, to build this road, it takes 5,000 metal, and it takes so long to build all that, but all of a sudden all these other people are that have connected to your world are just throwing it in and helping you build the road, and the next thing you know, it's out there. I don't know how many times I would go through a place I haven't connected, going, okay, this would be a great place for a bridge, or I'll do this here or whatever to make it a lot easier, and I'll connect it to the network and turn around and it's been done. It's such a fascinating game. The story's fantastic. I will say, if you don't like long cutscenes, get to the end of the game and just turn it off, because the end of the game is basically like a 3-hour cutscene. And I think I saw the credits roll 3 times in that section, which was tough for me because I had to go to work, and I'm like, oh, I could finish this and it'd be great, and I have a couple hours, and watching the credits roll the 3rd time, I go, I hope there's not more. I gotta go to work in 20 minutes. Come on, Kojima, let's go. And it's so interesting, and again, I totally understand that this is a very controversial game as far as whether people like it or not, and Isbelle are very polarizing, so I get it. I'm not going to argue with anybody that goes, this game's stupid, because I was worried it was going to be. But if you allow yourself to get into it and you allow it to take, I hate people that go like, what, Final Fantasy 14 came out and you're like, oh, you get 20 hours in, it's going to be great. And here I am saying, you get to chapter 5 and you get to the Mid-America area. That is where it hooks you. That's where it got me. And the next thing I know, I was playing it every night for 4 or 5 hours. It's so fantastic.
But couldn't you also say that a game shouldn't take that long to get to the point?
That's what I'm saying. Which is why I think when we come down to the ranking, as it looks like, I know Jens has it third, which is good. I have a little bit of thing. I'm not going to completely go nuts if we don't have it in the top 3 or 4 or 5. I would like it to be in the top 5.
I think it should be in the top 3 for sure.
But again, so if somebody absolutely hates, I'm not gonna like go completely nuts because yes, it is that long drag. But that's the part. The weird thing about this is the way it was built, and I think the way Kojima wanted it was it had to be difficult for you at the beginning, or you weren't going to appreciate the connection that you make with these other players that you never see.
Yeah, man, I so agree with you about the communal aspect of this game. The fact that it enforces those interactions in the context of that really hostile environment, it really does make you grateful. And
it makes me laugh because I hate Dark Souls games. Like I'm old, and I remember like Mega Man difficulty and NES difficulty, and I don't have that time to like learn boss patterns and get into it. So I was like, I just can't get into this. And then here I am playing this game that is just okay. You have to push yourself to understand it and get better at it. And it's like, okay, I now understand why people like Dark Souls or Sekiro or any of those kind of games. I get it now.
There are a lot of trollish interactions in Dark Souls that could not happen in this because Kojima made sure it couldn't.
Right.
Yeah. Man. But the narrative and the stunt casting is what drew me in.
Mm-hmm.
Because, I like Kojima games. The sheer wonderful Kojima-ness of it all, I had to experience it. But I had the same expectation as you, which is I'm probably not going to get deeper than 5 hours into this because I hate inventory management and I hate encumbrance. And what is this but an encumbrance simulator?
Yeah.
So, so I really didn't expect to like it. And then somehow I couldn't, just like you, I couldn't stop playing it. I think I played it like it just every night. 3, 4, 5 hours straight. I had the same experience of like, I can finish this, and then of course, like a Kojima game, the ending is like 3 hours, 4 hours of stuff. But I actually felt pretty satisfied with it by the end. I think it actually wraps, like it's almost the story almost is too straightforward. Like people think that it's wacky because it's like, there's babies and ghosts and flying whales and all this stuff. But when you see it in the context of the world building, it all kind of, like, it's weird, but it's all explained and it all kind of fits together, and you understand how it all works, and everything is hand in hand, like the themes of it, right? I mean, the themes are
at its core, it's a story about loneliness, right?
Right. Well, it's also a story about connection, as Randy said. So, like the theme of connection with other people, it's in the art design. Like it's in, it's like hands coming out of the ground when the monsters are trying to get you. They're trying to connect with you in some way, which is the tragedy of the ghosts in this. I forget what the ghosts are called.
BTs.
The BTs. Thank you. Yeah, you've got the hands. You have the fact that the social layer is contributing to the theme of the game, and then of course the narrative itself is contributing to the theme of the game. So it's like every aspect of it is driving that bit home, and it all works together really beautifully.
Yeah, once they told me what BT stood for, then I can't call it anything but BTs because it's really stupid.
And the BBs and the
bridge baby.
Yeah,
the
baby's
bridge
fine.
baby.
The BTs are beach things.
But I mean, Jens, you looked for a while, but then you soured on it like near the end, didn't you?
So the one thing I really appreciate, Kojima really manages in the story to make you care about these stupidly named characters. Like if Die Hard Man is not one of the best performances in the game in a long time, like him and Mads Mikkelsen fantastically used. I even forgave him for the hell he put me through in Vietnam. That's the point where I was like, screw this game. But
that section was the weakest for sure.
Yeah, I did not like that. The most satisfying thing to me was coming up with routes that just avoided BTs altogether. To the point where you know the map well enough where you know, like, okay, I can just hug this mountain, and you can draw very, very precise, like charting your own paths, and this is awesome. Because if you do it right, you end up with a very hand-holdy path, but because you made it yourself, it doesn't feel cheap. So, my whole thing was, I just want to avoid the stealth at all times, whether it means building a gigantic bridge over a BT area so you can skip that BT area entirely, or, trying to make a path to circumvent it. I never wanted to do the boss fights, and I hated the boss fights. That is my especially, like, I'm already carrying a bunch of shit with me, and suddenly I've got to be in a boss fight. I'm going to drop all my stuff in the goo. I'm going to get pulled away to a totally different part of the map. Like, it's such a pain in the ass. And, like especially if you're heavily overloaded, having to, like, as slowly as humanly possible, stealth around things that you can't see. That's where the game almost broke me. But there's so much about it that I love. Like, I love the story, love the characters. Cried at what happened with Mama.
Mm-hmm.
That was they're like genuine tearjerker moments in this game, and I love the core backpacking. I think as a backpacking simulator, it's amazing.
Yeah, and it kind of shows that combat was the least thing on Kojima's mind, and it's the weakest part of the game. And I'm not a big open world game fan. I find a lot of them, like Mark had said about Skyrim, to be kind of empty, and I just don't care about the world as much. And yes, Death Stranding is pretty empty, but that's kind of the point of it. And
it's post-apocalypse. I mean.
Yeah, it made me care about all these people hiding in their little bunkers and stuff. I know the internet just loves to joke that Jeff Keighley's in it and Conan O'Brien's in it, and you see Monster Energy drink all the time. I barely see Monster Energy drink anymore because it's the beer thing that they have in there, the Timefall beer. So I haven't even seen a Monster Energy drink in 50 hours, just because it switched to that. I
always slam them when I'm at a rest station because it increases your stamina another.
And I don't even care about that. Like, I don't care if Monster Energy drink is in my game. If it got them a little extra money to make the game better, I'll go for it.
That's just part of the Kojima thing. I mean, that's every Kojima game has some weird product placement.
Yeah. True. So, all right, before we get to making the actual list, is there a game that we haven't talked about that wasn't on your list that you feel like should be included?
Yeah, I'll just throw one out there. I haven't played this game, but I played the original, and all I've heard, it's just better. Super Mario Maker 2 has to, because the first Mario Maker was perfection, and now they put it on a better.
No.
Mark reviewed the game.
I'm also against this.
Okay, the builder stuff is not as good because you're on a Switch tablet.
Yes.
So the tablet stuff doesn't work, and the actual, like, making a level with the controls is arcane and very confusing. Playing is fine. Like, playing Mario levels is fine, except if you're doing multiplayer, which didn't work at all, and is like laggy as fuck. I mean, I applaud them for, like, adding, like, Link in. Like, that's a cool addition, but it feels like a weird reduction in complexity from, like, even the first one.
Yeah, and see, I think that's where I would have no problem with it, because I don't care about the multiplayer and I don't build stuff. So
yeah,
just bring on your levels.
I put a lot of time into the original Mario Maker. It was my game of the generation or whatever for that system. Love the Wii U in general. Wii U is a really underrated system, and an underrated controller. I mean, making Mario levels on the Wii U controller is so comfortable and so relaxing. You can just kind of lay back and poke at it. Like here, there's not enough space. Everything feels crammed, but there's also way more options. So everything is hidden away in little circular radial submenus.
Yeah.
And it's just a big decline in the UX design of the Maker. and it made making levels much more cumbersome to me. And then coupled with the fact that the hardware is much worse for it, and like I even bought a special stylus to use, and even with a stylus it doesn't get better. So I don't know. I fell off it pretty quickly. Like I tried to play some multiplayer with Mark, which was terrible. And
yeah, we were like lagging out like every 15 seconds, or like you make a jump and like 2 seconds later like Mario would jump, and it's like what?
And what's even worse is that they made you wait for that, and then it doesn't work well.
I mean, it came later, and then it's like, why even have it if it doesn't work? Or I mean, me and Jens have played games where Borderlands 3 works perfectly fine. And I imagine there's a lot more data in that game being transmitted than in Mario.
I'm planning to know 2D platformers might be more like a fighting game where you want very precise placement.
They even took out the amiibo stuff, which they should have expanded that, not taken it out completely. Like, that was a interesting selling point for that game.
Oh yeah, it was great. Well, you could make the Giant Mario, which was good for making puzzle levels where he has to break blocks, which only Giant Mario can. I mean, the really solid blocks.
Yeah, I didn't play Mario Maker 1, so I mean, I went into Mario Maker 2
so good.
Like, oh man, this, that's like the one Wii U game I was really jealous about not playing, and it's like, okay, well, I got it, and playing is fine, except like the two new, it's like Mario Bros. U and New Super Mario Brothers. It's like they're the same damn game, I thought, like the same game style. But like Mario World and Mario 3 and Mario Original are all fine. But it's like I don't like making levels in this thing at all because I can't figure out the menu system whatsoever.
Yeah.
And I played through the entire story mode. That was cute, but that was kind of about it for me. I'm like, yep. And then I didn't really have anyone else to get levels from. I mean, I did some random levels here and there, but I'm like, most of these are bad. They're just kind of dumb. So. Yeah, I'm good.
I think that's the problem with Mario Maker games, or any games like that anyways. You always have to give it a while, so the people that really are good at making levels have time to mess around with the system. I come at it as a guy that plays the Trials games, and I can't make maps in that either, but I love to see what people can create, and usually if you go back like 6 months after the game comes out, some of the things people create, it's just ridiculous.
It also feels like this game doesn't have the conversation around it like the first one did.
Yeah, I don't know what happened. You'd think that it would have a bigger impact being on a much more...
like this game, I remember the first one, there was always someone talking about it. Obviously the Patrick Klepek and GameSpot people constantly Giant Bomb making things out of it made it a big deal, but even in that instance, I just don't, like, I remember, even past them, I remember someone always saying, oh, I made this, I did this. Like, yeah, they just introduced the Zelda stuff, which looks cool, but I don't see that conversation of people on Twitter, people on social media just being like, oh, you gotta play Mario Maker, oh, you gotta do this. Like, it's a game that felt like it was there, and then better stuff came after it, and their attention waned, and there wasn't something to bring them back because the co-op wasn't good either.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, I wanted to like it, but I just couldn't get into it. If anything, it was one of my more disappointing games of the year because I'm like, yep, I want to play this, but it's not really letting me.
I think one for me, I know we mentioned it, but I wanted to make a case for Plague Tale because just like Death Stranding and Control is a very beautiful game, the setting makes that game work very well, and I got drawn into those two characters, to Amicia and Hugo, and yes, it has a little bit of an eco vibe, which is going to make Randy puke or whatever, but the story is so well done. And also, once you get the rat powers, it's pretty cool just to be able to send the rat things on the soldiers and watch them crumble and all that. But I think it's just I really enjoy this. I'm not always one that gets into the narrative games. Like, it has to be really good in order for me to do it and stay with it. because I don't know how many times I bought one of those Telltale games and I got off it really quick, unless it was Tales from the Borderlands or Wolf Among Us, where I played the whole thing. But this is one that I haven't gotten to finish it because of the problems with it on PC.
Yeah, I mean, you're having like technical issues, so.
Yeah, it's just a game where you have to because you're stealthing, you're not doing combat, so you're stealthing or you're running away, and when the thing decides to chug or slow down, and I need to be able to run to the right, and it won't do it because the game has a problem. It makes it difficult because it doesn't have a manual save. It has a checkpoint system, and sometimes that checkpoint system takes you back to that cutscene you saw at first or whatever, and so it's kind of annoying in that way. But still, for what I have been able to enjoy, the story is great, and the characters are very memorable, and I mean the beginning of the game, it really changes how you think of those characters, and to go from two siblings that never interact with each other because Hugo has a mental illness, to all of a sudden they have to interact with each other and take care of each other, and it's just a really cool, really good, sweet story that you get to experience over this time and during the bubonic plague era. So, yeah,
that was a fun and happy time.
Yeah, for sure. All right, so let's start actually doing this because, we have to write blurbs for this stuff later.
It's only been 3 hours. Let's
do it. 2 hours and 15 minutes, to be fair. So, yes, the top 25. Let's start making this. So 25 through 21. Maybe it's better if we do it top down. I don't know.
No, I think going bottom up is better because games that have one fan that you can stick it on there.
So how many games do we have right now?
How many games do we have between everybody's lists?
Well, at least 25. I mean,
yeah, at least 25 plus some other ones we can throw in there. I will. I think we should. I hate that we're having to do this because she's not here to really make her case, but I feel like Shadowbringers is probably going to be in this lower tier because none of us have really been able to play it to make a big case for it. So, I don't know. I would put that at 22 or so to place it somewhere. And then we can work around there. Where do we want to put... Well, the Goose Game should probably go a little bit higher, I feel like.
I mean, I'd say 25. It's one of your games, but Persona Q2, because that's not gonna get a ton of support. No offense.
That's fine. You can put it there. I'm just happy it makes a list. So, if you want to put it there, then...
I think every game we talked about is going to make the list somewhere. I mean,
yeah.
Let's see.
I was thinking the same thing with that Catherine full body game. It'd probably be down there a little lower.
If the multiplayer worked, or if the game was actually good, then I could support it better. But
all right, we can put. How about Persona Q2, Catherine?
I say that just to poke fun at Jens.
I don't want to make fun of Jens. We had a bonding moment over Death Stranding, and I don't want to ruin it now.
That's well, yeah. Yeah, so Persona Q2, Catherine. How about
Kingdom Hearts 3?
No, I think that it's too low. I mean, because most of us played it and reasonably liked it. I'm not going to be top 10. I think it'll be number 10, if anything. But
I don't know about number 10. maybe a little bit lower, but yeah, in that 15 range, at least. How about this? Persona Q2, Catherine, Baba's You. We can put
weird games.
Hey, there's nothing wrong with those. We can put Plague Tale down here because I haven't been able to finish it.
I might say that should be higher, but also like I haven't played it, and the fact that you're running into like huge technical issues that other people have run into also is kind of a black.
But you were playing it on what, PS4?
I played it. I don't know. Like, when you mentioned it to me, I looked at the Steam forums and saw like stuttering or hitching up. Like other people have had that problem. Like running on hardware that's better than yours, and it's like that's an issue.
What about Judgment?
I mean, I might say like 19. That's fine.
Okay. I know you didn't like it, Jens, but I feel like Sekiro needs to be higher because it's been a huge part of the conversation this year. A lot of people did.
I mean, it's well made. Like,
yeah, it's a very well made game, and it's you know.
Again, Stephanie's not here to defend it, but what about Mortal Kombat 11?
Yeah.
How do you feel that goes?
Okay, I think there's your 5 right there. I think Persona Q2, Catherine, Baba's You, Gears 5, and Mortal Kombat 11. There's your 20. Your first 5. Your 25 to 21. That sound fine to everybody?
Sure.
Alright, so 20. I'll put Ape out there. And Judgment. And then what do we do after this? Remnant? No.
I mean, that's fine. Like, I would think it's better than Code Vein, but
As long as it's not too high up.
I'm not. I'm the only one here with good taste. So.
I don't want Destiny Souls.
Destiny Souls, you don't like that?
I do want that because then it makes both those games actually palatable.
Okay, is somebody writing this down somewhere so we don't...
Yeah,
I'm writing it down.
Okay, so we don't repeat ourselves here?
Maybe we should put Google Doc together.
Yeah, Mark has it on our Google Doc right now.
There it is.
Okay. Well, Plague Tale could probably go right in front of Remnant. After that...
MLB The Show 1999.
No, we don't... All-Star Baseball.
Yeah.
I'm fine with Sayonara Wild Hearts.
Okay. I was going to say Erica, but alright.
Yeah, I might put... Even though I haven't played it, just from everything I've read and heard about Sayonara Wild Hearts, maybe it should be a little bit higher up.
Well, whenever we still got to put Apex in here somewhere.
Yeah, that's
you can always let stuff fall off the end of the list if the list gets too long.
Yeah.
I mean,
like...
start from the back, stuff's going to fall off.
Okay, so here's the thing. We still have, like, a bunch of games we gotta place somewhere. So, yeah, let's just keep going, and then if we gotta, like Yen says, just keep... the stuff at the bottom gets pushed out.
Well, I put... For 16, I put Erica, 15, I put Sayonara, and 14, I put Apex Legends.
That's fair.
Because none of us... you played a little, but none of us...
I played a little bit. Daniel really liked it. He just isn't here to talk about it.
The biggest conundrum for me is where Disco Elysium goes.
Yeah, Disco Elysium's got to go somewhere, and so does the Goose Game. Got to go somewhere.
I might put Disco at 10, just because none of us have played it, really.
You were supposed to play a lot more of it, sir. But it's okay. It's a Christmas present. It's fine. So Yeah. And then we gotta figure out where Code Vein's gonna go. We gotta figure out where Outer Wilds is gonna go. So, like,
Yeah, how married are you on Outer Wilds?
I love Outer Wilds. It's I gotta say at least like top 10 or something. Like you could put Pokemon at like 15 or something like that.
Too high.
Well, 13.
No, not that high. Like, it's fine right there. It's like middle of the pack. It's
Should it be behind Apex?
15 is Sayonara. I mean, almost went for that higher.
Well, we're gonna have to knock some of the stuff off the bottom because like there's a lot of games that we still haven't even.
A list of things we haven't listed. I'm already up to 12, and I'm still going back and finding other names we haven't put. So there's some games that are gonna get knocked off.
Yeah. Did I get you Persona Q too?
No, man. I want to put Persona Q2 on there somewhere. Like, I just didn't. I mean, I know you guys played Catherine, so I don't know.
No, we can totally. Let's drop off Catherine. Let's drop off Gears 5.
All right. I mean, like, are you feeling really strong about Erica?
Erica can also go. Again, these are just kind of me games.
Okay, because Astral Chain's got to be on there too.
Astral Chain's got to be in the top 10, I would say. But I don't know.
Well, we got too many things that got to be in the top 10, so something's got to not be in the top 10. Because we still got DNC 5 also. Borderlands 3 is not even going to be on there, so we don't have to worry about that.
Come on, man. You know it's going to be number 1.
Yeah, wrong year for that. Maybe like what? Well, when did 2 come out? Like 10 years ago?
If it came out in 1997, Borderlands 3 would be the game of the year.
Okay, so let's reshuffle this a little bit then.
Yeah, so I have 17 games that we have high on our lists that we haven't even mentioned yet.
Okay. So, Persona Q2, Baba, so we have to start, how does, if you're doing the list, Randy, what is this, after we drop some?
Can you not see it? It's like right below the spreadsheet of what I'm doing.
Oh, I'm not seeing it, sorry. Okay, now I see it.
Yeah, and right below that is where I put the list that we haven't talked about yet, or haven't ranked yet.
Okay. See, this is the problem when I feel bad for this. This is bad audio because these people are not seeing any of this at all.
It's like just how like Giant Bomb used to do their lists.
Yeah. So if the way this looks right now, Persona Q2, Baba is you, MK11, Ape Out, Judgment, Revenant from the Ashes. That's your 20 through 25. Plague Tale. Sayonara at 18, Apex. You gotta put Apex above Pokemon, I feel like. Just how important it was.
I mean, how about Shadowbringers at 18?
Yeah, put Shadowbringers at 18, that's fine.
And then King Moogle song being number 2 from Final Fantasy 14, which is awesome.
Well, okay, put Astral Chain at. You okay with that at 14?
Yeah, that's fine.
Are we bumping Luigi's Mansion off this list?
Oh, Luigi's Mansion's got to be somewhere.
I mean, I could put Luigi's Mansion at 14 and Astral above that. Like, that's not really. I mean, I like Luigi's Mansion, and I think it's a good. It's weird that it won that game award for party game or like family game. I'm like, what?
I hear the multiplayer is not that great.
I haven't touched it, and I won't touch it.
It's fine. It's not anything.
Still, being a damn good Luigi's Mansion game, it should definitely be fairly high up because those are good.
And they don't make too many of them apparently, because this is only the third one, and 20 years.
Okay. Yeah, see, we're at like 13, and we still gotta list all these games.
That's fine, though.
Alright, so where are we putting Outer Worlds?
I mean, I'd say probably like 5.
Really?
If we agree that everything that under still needs to be listed is going to go on the list, that means we just have to cut 3. I don't know if we want to do that now or later.
We can cut
Well, let's
that
finish
in.
making the list and then...
Hey.
Okay.
Alright, we can put... Shit. What do we want to put Tetris?
God, that's such a hard one to rank. It's
I would say
Okay,
like
because
Tetris.
so.
it made the
So-
Switch Online by
the way
itself.
the way Jens has his list, he has Untitled Goose Game underneath Tetris 99. Do we want to do that on our list too? He's the only one that's played Untitled Goose Game on our list.
I've played it. I have Goose Game too. I've played it. I just don't have it on the list. Goose Game is very important. It's important for this year because of what it does for its genre and.
And Tetris is important because it's Tetris.
Well, Tetris was important because it made Switch Online worth it.
Yes.
And it's the best battle royale game ever made.
Yep. The only one I'll play, honestly.
I mean, I could take a Goose Game as like 12, and then Tetris 99 at like 11.
Yeah, that's fine. As long as
okay.
I mean, Jens is the only one. Well, Sean did too, but I was just looking at
Yeah,
Jens' list, and that's how he ranked it. So
Yeah, I mean, Sean didn't even have it on his list, so.
Yeah.
But again,
Well, I had to make
it's
some
not-
sacrifices because it's like, well, I'm not going to be able to put other games on my list if I put everything. So,
Yeah.
Bloodstained should probably be not that high up, right?
I agree
We
too.
could stick that at like 12 or something.
Really?
Also, like Slay the Spire maybe doesn't.
I mean,
I really love that game, but it doesn't.
Okay.
What? Yeah.
so then we do the Untitled Goose Game and Tetris 99 here.
Yeah, at the bottom of the top 10, that makes sense to me.
Yeah.
It'll get bumped a little bit. Well,
Yeah. everything will
DMC5,
get
I
bumped
think
now.
we're getting a little too high.
Yeah, like, I didn't play
I think it makes the top 25. I don't think it's top 10.
How about between Slay the Spire and Bloodstained?
That's fine. That's fine with me.
That's fine, yeah.
Is Bloodstained really better than DMC5 and Astral Chain? I don't think so, probably.
You were wrong.
Okay. I'll take you.
DMC I think it's-
I mean, I actually like Platinum Bloodstained because I liked it so much.
Okay.
It's like one of
I
the
don't
two
know, but
games that
DMC5
gave
is so
me Sam Buster's
freaking
Year to
just
actually do that with.
fun. Just fun action.
I would play Sekiro at 7. None of us played it except for Jens. He didn't like it
Well,
too
right
much.
now we have 10 games left on our list that we haven't listed.
I feel like
do we
Sekiro
all
should at
agree
least
that
be in the
this is our
top 10.
that we haven't listed?
I feel like Sekiro
RE2
needs to at least be in the
RE2
top
Remake,
10.
Outer Worlds, Death Stranding, Sekiro, Fire Emblem, Star Wars, Code Vein, Control, Kingdom Hearts 3, and Outer Wilds.
Why does Kingdom Hearts need to be that high?
Yeah, like, you may want to bump something lower
It's
out.
not that
Maybe,
great a game. It was comfort food, it was good, it was fun, but it's not, you know...
How about we throw out MK11 and put
Kingdom Hearts.
Well, 3 got to get bumped anyways.
exactly.
I think-
Let's just talk about which ones we bump. Do we bump the final 3 and start with Ape Out at number 25, or do we? Would you rather bump
here.
bump something else?
Sean, these are other than Mortal Kombat 11, Persona, Baba's You, and Ape Out are all your games. Which one do you want to be 25th?
I feel like, yeah, just drop Persona Q2 because I feel like Baba Is You.
Well, only one
Is-
of those 4 are going to make it. Ape Out, Mortal Kombat 11, Baba's You, and Persona Q2. Only one's going to make the 25.
I would honestly, I mean, I have no real hat in the race with any of these games, but I would actually rather drop Shadowbringers or Apex Legends.
Well,
I mean,
Shadowbringers
we don't
has
like
to
those
be
ones.
in. We can push Shadowbringers back if you want, but Shadowbringer has to be in because of being
Okay,
Stephanie's
yeah.
number one.
So, Sean, out of those three, Persona, Bob Issue, and Ape Out, which was your favorite?
My favorite is probably Ape Out, but I feel like when I think back at everything and like just Bobby U is important. But go ahead and just you could put Ape Out at like 25 or it's fine.
Riveting.
Right. Okay. So then, these other ones are basically our top 10, but we want to move Kingdom Hearts 3 into the middle here somewhere.
Yeah, because
I could see it like below DMC 5 if you really want to do that.
I haven't played it, so wherever you guys want to put that. Okay.
shoot, I would put Astral Chain above it.
So like,
That's-
like
That's just me though.
we'll have DMC 5 or I mean whatever Kingdom Hearts 3 be below that.
Yes. Yeah, right there. That's good enough for me.
Okay, so then we have our top 10, I think, now?
Yeah.
Yeah, top 9 that we have left, once we get Kingdom Hearts off this list.
Alright, so
We have 9 spots, so there we go.
Yeah, there you go.
Math is fun.
So we
You can
that.
put
So now,
Sekiro at
out of
9.
Those 9 games, Resident Evil 2, Outer Worlds, Death Stranding, Sekiro, Fire Emblem, Star Wars, Code Vein, Control, and Outer Wilds. What's the bottom of that list?
You can put Sekiro at 9.
Yeah.
I don't know. It feels weird putting
Sek-
Sekiro.
it's an I,
underneath
not-
Code Vein, even though
Yeah, no, I
Not
agree.
even
Wait, why is Code Vein this high, honest?
it's just
Because-
because I mean, it's my thing, and
it-
it's the
it-
other Stephanie, I guess, has it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I feel like,
It's
okay,
I'm
but...
happy as long as it's above Remnant. I'm happy.
That's because you don't recognize quality. I forgive you for this error, for this sin.
Well, if you want, we can put it all the way back there, because... I don't know, I feel like
You do what you like.
you could put it at, like, I don't know...
It seems a bit crazy where it is now.
Yeah, that's really high for Code Vein. That's really high.
How about
For
below?
one, I feel like Apex needs to be a little bit higher too because of
How about we put
what it
just
did
under
this
Apex?
year.
I mean,
like-
you keep talking about like the importance of Apex, and it's like, fine, it was important, but you only played it, and you didn't play much of it. Like,
I know, but Daniel really liked it from what he told me, and I can't.
like, he should have been here.
He's still his grandma died. That's unfair. It's like
How about Code Vein at
Wi-Fi?
16?
Come on.
okay, that's fine. Code Vein at 16, yeah.
I mean, the problem with me with Apex Legends is like it's a copy of a copy. It's copying Fortnite, which is copying PUBG. Which
No, but it's also it has a little bit of Overwatch in it that does hero shooter stuff at times better than Overwatch. It included the ping thing, which makes it really easy for you to play a lot easier for you to play without having to talk to people. Teaming up it makes teams important. It makes your even the dumbest hero, who's basically just a decoy, he has a purpose in that game. It's like there's a lot that they added to that genre that wouldn't be there without Apex, I think.
And if you were making that argument for Apex, I can make the same argument about Star Wars.
No, I
It
played Star
copies
Wars.
everyone else. Yeah, but it copies everyone else's homework, right?
Yeah, but I like it.
I mean, Code Vein also copies everyone else's homework. You
Yeah.
know, a lot of these games are.
A lot of these games
looking
take
at what
from
works.
each other. It's
And that's where we're at for the most part is in 2019 is there's not a lot of new genres you're going to come up with. So everyone's going to copy somebody.
okay. So where are we at with the? What are we trying to? You can put Sekiro back at 8, I guess.
I did
If we-
7. No, we did
Oh,
8.
7? Okay. So
Outer Wilds.
you put
yeah,
Outer Wilds
but-
at 8, yeah.
Yeah.
And now it gets fun.
Yep.
I would say
Why don't we
Outer
put
Worlds at 6.
Okay, so behind Star Wars.
Yeah, because I'm still invested in playing it, which
Yeah.
has a leg up on Star Wars, or then a leg up on Outer Worlds.
So we've got the Outer Worlds ahead of the Outer Wilds. Is that really what we want to do?
I
think we
don't.
should have. I think we should have them back to back just to be more confusing.
Just like a Rebel-
I don't.
Rebel
I feel like
Galaxy,
Outer Worlds is
Galaxy.
better than Outer Worlds, but I also haven't played Outer Worlds, so I can't.
I don't know. I feel like maybe Sekiro should be number 8, and then Outer Worlds should be number 7, and Outer Wilds number 6.
Still don't understand why Star Wars is that high, but what?
It's good.
Is it
Like,
really the top 5 game of the year, though?
Yeah. Like it's like
All right,
not
it's
the
good.
first not busted Star Wars game they released in 20 years.
But just because it's not the first busted Star Wars game?
You know, that BD-1 droid is pretty adorable.
All right, put it fifth.
But it's just no. Come on, is the story really that good? Is the combat really that? I mean, I know the combat's improved from other Star Wars games, but
Yeah, like, you know, it's not as complicated as like a Dark Souls because you don't really have you don't have different weapons for one. You just have a lightsaber.
Yeah,
But you can
Sekiro
really-
like.
Yeah, you can really mix and match your force powers. You know, push a guy off the cliff while you're like dealing, countering another guy, when he's hitting you or something like that. You have a pretty wide open window comparative to other games, like we can parry attacks and stuff. I think the acting's really good, especially the main guy, but all around, like, decent story. The only weird problem is, you magnetize to, like, ropes and shit, and, like, that works most of the time, but, like, 1%, you get some really weird animation, which is actually kind of funny, where your guy will, like, quickly zoom to a rope in, like, midair, and it's like, huh? Like, did he force push himself to this, or what? But that's about it.
oh, we still got to put Disco Elysium somewhere.
Yeah.
Whoops.
Sorry, Slay the Spire.
Well, I'm not taking.
I mean, I could
yeah.
take Judgment off, maybe. I mean, I would rather have Remnant probably on there instead. You could just move everything down,
I like Judgment being on this list. Can we scroll back? Let me see here.
You can take Ape Out off. It's fine. I really love that game, but it's fine. I'm losing out. All my little indies are losing out here.
As opposed to Disco Elysium, which is the big indie, but still the indie.
But the indie that frickin' turns RPGs on its head, yeah.
Everything I've
Unless
seen
when it
about
dump-
how. Sorry, Mark, go on.
I was gonna say, unless when I dump Code Vein.
No. We can move it down, but I don't want to dump it.
Okay, so move everything down. And I feel like you gotta at least. Like, Disco's gotta at least be like 11th or something.
I mean, you could put it like above Tetris 99 if you want.
Yeah.
but below Outer Wilds.
I still wish we could have Outer Wilds above Outer Worlds. But...
That's what I said. Let's just swap them, and then put Sekiro behind both of them.
Everybody cool with that?
I'm fine.
So Outer Wilds above whatever.
So 10 untitled Biko game. 9
Up to me,
99.
Outer Wilds would be above Star Wars, but it's not just...
Yeah. So number 8, I would say Sekiro, and then number 9 would be Outer Worlds. Sorry, I'm going the wrong way.
Yeah, that's...
Okay,
yeah.
Number 9, Disco Inferno. Okay, number 8, Sekiro. Number 7, Outer Worlds. Number 6, Outer Wilds.
All right.
All right, who wants to start this debate?
I would say RE2 remake at 4.
You
No.
want behind Control?
Control did something new, or is new.
Yeah.
I mean, no offense to. I mean, everyone likes RE2 remake, but it's a lot of that's predicated upon past knowledge. I mean, you were mentioning that it's a new. You felt like it was a new game, Randy, but it's like not really. Like that police station is 95% of what I remember in that first game.
Not all the puzzles are different. If you want to talk about a game, I haven't played the new one, but just from the looks, if you want to say a game looks like the old game,
No, I meant the actual like police layout, like the entire
the layout was the exact same, which was
yeah, that's what I meant. Like, so it was really easy for me to pick up certain shit because it's like, oh yeah, I remember this dumbass ladder puzzle in library ladder puzzle in the first one.
I guess that's my thing. As far as somebody that hasn't played the new Fire Emblem, I mean, you guys talked about it a little bit, but Jan, you said you've played Fire Emblem. What does this one do that's so much better than the older one?
So it takes a lot of the more punishing systems out of the combat, and it adds the social element where you are building social links and kind of getting to know your companions, and then it builds a really good kind of branching story around that. Where
so they upgraded what they did in Awakening, right? They had some social stuff in Awakening, I think.
Yes, but now it's like it's in a school, and there's a lot more of it, and there's all these activities, and there's an insane amount of that content.
Like taking out that triangle weapon system is a huge deal because that's always been a thing. That's been the thing for Fire Emblem since its inception, basically. So to take that out and change that and actually make the game better by doing that and then adding the social things on it, that's really important.
Yeah, I think Control's 4 on my list, but I haven't played that one either, so I can't.
No, Control does a lot new in that it has a tremendous story for one. Two, I know not everybody likes the combat, but the combat it's when you get all those things working and you can...
The combat worked. The only problem I had with combat was some of the bosses were annoying, but like regular combat was fine, or perfectly lockstep with like the other Remedy stuff. Like it was.
Yeah, I mean I had a ton of fun with the combat, and I think it's just it builds on that. Like even the building that you're in, the oldest house, it's an office building, but it's like really cool the way that it changes as they add more things.
It's like a paranormal building, and then you get like, oh, now that I have this levitation maneuver, and I can get to this other ledge that I couldn't get to before, and I can explore this other wing of this building, or you just find a bunch of like haunted shit in the in the building that you're in, and one of it might be like, oh, it's a haunted toilet. Okay,
right.
Now you have to go fight a monster in it or something like that.
There's even like somebody writes a letter, I think it is, like getting mad that they moved the toilet, so now they can't get to it, and then like, how dare you employ me here and I can't go to the bathroom?
There's a lot of dark humor in the game also, which I really appreciate.
Yeah, and the FMVs are awesome. It's like, that's what I'm saying. It doesn't.
Don't get me wrong. I like the Resident Evil 2 remake quite a bit. Like, I played it. I mean, I went through it like 3 times because I got like the costumes and all the upgraded weapons and stuff like that. But I just think fundamentally 80% of that game is still the same game as the first one.
I disagree.
I mean, you even have the stupid chess puzzle from the first one. That was bad then and worse now.
All right, let's put. I'm gonna keep having this argument. RE2 remake at 4.
I don't know though. All of you put RE2 remake on your lists higher than Control.
Well, some people hadn't played Control, so that was the problem.
I guess that's true.
And Sean had Control his number 1, so.
And Daniel had it as number 3.
I mean, I would.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I mean, I still would. Control's not perfect, and I think like RE2, it might be a better. I think it might be just be a better. It's a better experience because you're in a zombie.
It's just Mark. Mark, you're arguing for Control over RE2, but on your own list, it's the other way around.
Yeah, but I'm also wrong.
Okay.
No, it's just I just didn't finish Control. Like I think. I just got distracted by other games like Fire Emblem.
Yeah, there's a big payout. There's Control keeps getting better as it goes along. So.
And I got obsessed with Control.
Which is the problem. Which is the opposite of RE2, where it is not.
All right.
I'm having Control at number 3 because we know what this battle is for. So. I'll put Control at number 3, and then you guys can battle it out here.
There's no battle. The right side has already won.
I'm just going to say one argument, and then I'll let you... Honestly, I think Jens is the closest one that's going to be picking either one of these, and that's totally fine with me either way. My only argument is, a lot of the time that we have come up with decisions on this list, our argument against is a copy of this, or this did it better, or it's just the exact same as this, but they tweak something. Nothing is like Death Stranding. It copied absolutely nothing from any other game I've ever played, and that's to me why it's number 1.
I mean, there are other indie games that are doing similar things to Death Stranding, but nobody's putting the combination.
Yeah, nobody's putting the AAA money and Hollywood actors behind it.
Right, exactly. Yeah, the fact that it's like a AAA indie game essentially in the truest sense. See, I'm torn because it really does come down to a decision between one of the greatest strategy RPGs of all time and one of the most innovative and interesting games of all time. So, I don't know. I really could go either way regardless of my own list.
I mean, I haven't played that much of Death Stranding. It seems interesting, but like it just seems kind of weird. Like it seems kind of like clumsy in spots.
Well, it is
the right spots.
So, like a good example is like in my game, like one of the first bases you come across is a stupid like hover cycle or motorcycle, like just outside the base radius, like 2 feet away from it. It's like, why can't I just push this ahead 2 feet and recycle it, or do something with it? If not use it, just break it down for parts. And it just sits there forever.
Because it sat there until you learn how to make a generator. It's there as a tutorial device.
Well, no, some dude left.
That's a set piece in that game. But I will say there's a lot of things in Death Stranding that you just kind of have to go, wink, wink, it's a game. Like, even the component of the rain that makes everything age faster as long as
Yeah, because it's called like Time Rain or something like that, right?
Timefall.
Yeah, Timefall.
Yeah,
But
it's
it
not even
only
really
works-
rain.
but
It's like
it only works when it is falling. Once it hits the ground and makes a puddle, it doesn't work anymore. So it's one of those things where you gotta go, okay, it's just a game mechanic. It's
No,
don't
it's not.
take
But
it too
they
serious.
explain it in detail in the lore. They
Oh yeah, I know.
explain that,
But
when Timefall it turns back into regular rain. So
in the most Kojima way possible, and it's fine. I still, I love it, but I'm just against some of those arguments of like, oh, it worked like this. Well, it's Kojima.
see, I feel like Death Stranding goes out of its way to explain every tiny little aspect of how its world works.
Mhm.
Like it goes to great lengths to tell you how Timefall works, how BTs work, what they are.
I will say that if you ever play the game and you get confused at how things work, they have a tips section in that thing that has like 300 pieces of tips in there,
That's
and a
very
lot of
good.
them are like that's how mules have become completely broken to me. Is I learned how to do the shoulder tackle thing, and it just makes the mules
Mm-hmm.
camps pointless. But in a good way, because I have gotten better and I learned how to do it.
Yeah, once you can negate their little search pulses, I just kind of go around them anyway.
Yeah. So
But,
like I said, Jens, I think you're the swing vote, because Mark and I are very much on one side, and you like
Right.
them both. So
Well, exactly, yeah. And I personally enjoyed Fire Emblem more because there's things about Death Stranding that just pissed me off. But coming out of it, at the end of it, it's almost like something like Twin Peaks: The Return, where you feel like you've gone on a weird and slow-paced and disturbing journey, but and not everything was good. But it was. A lot of
oh,
stuff
tell me
you've never
about it
seen
with
before
that
in your life.
show. Yeah, I felt the same way with that. With that Twin Peaks Return. Like there was just a lot of weird shit. It connects some dots and some other ones it doesn't, and you're just like, "What the fuck did I just watch?" But okay.
But I loved it nonetheless, right? And
Yeah, I
that's kind of-
agree.
With all my, it's weird because I think when I was on the podcast where it was just me and Mark, where we talked about Death Stranding, I gave it like a 7 out of 10. Then it still is number 3 on my list. So I guess it has really confused me.
Oh,
Kinda
Death Stranding.
it grows
Hey,
up.
it's the most polarizing game of this year. Death Stranding.
absolutely.
All right, number 1.
Nope. I refuse to be a party of this travesty.
Well, you overruled.
Your list has it higher. You just.
I know, but you broke the same. This is why I was asking you earlier.
Yeah, but other people had better game. Had it on their list. Sean had it Control as number 1. That's fine.
Okay, I don't see how that is. That seems tangentially related at best.
Because you and me both have Fire Emblem at number 1. So.
Yeah, it's my favorite game of the year.
And it's the best game.
Remember, game of the year is not necessarily your favorite game of the year. It is the game of the year.
I mean, the fact that, I know at least one other person has dumped, 170 hours into Fire Emblem as well, besides me.
Now, if you go by amount of memes generated, I think Fire Emblem wins by a slim margin.
I don't care about memes. I mean, I've seen more dumb shit about Death Stranding than Fire Emblem.
That's
No.
that's because Death Stranding lends itself to that.
Yeah, replacing the Monster Energy with a Budweiser can or stuff like that.
Fire Emblem has that whole Fire Emblem characters correlated with social media posts thing.
What?
You've not seen those? Where
no,
it's like,
and I don't want to.
oh, I need to show you some. They're good. All right, which has inspired the most horny drawings?
Is that how we're-
Are there more sexy Norman Reeduses, or are there more sexy anime girls out there?
I mean, if you ask certain people.
Norman
Trying to measure
Reedus
cultural impact here.
Norman Reedus is naked a lot in that game.
I did love.
Is that what we're basing this on? Whether Norman Reedus
Posts
is
talking
naked
about it.
a lot or not? Seems a weird thing to base this on.
It's not. It's a dumb metric that he's using as a joke, not as a serious thing.
Thanks.
I
Explaining
assume
the
Fire
joke just like James Corden and Cats.
Hey, it's your favorite movie, not mine.
Okay, so
Like, the fact that you literally pee mushrooms should disqualify Death Stranding automatically.
what?
Yeah, when you pee mushrooms sprout.
Wait, is that how stuff grows in this game? People pee mushroom sprouts?
You
What the
explain it,
fuck,
Randy,
man?
come on.
Yeah, basically, if you there's a what's it, the chiral, like the little bugs that you can collect off of mushrooms, and if you pee a lot in one spot, you'll grow your own mushroom, and the mushroom will start having those, and that's what that is.
You know
It's a
what?
silly mechanic, but you know what? You also use your pee and your poop and your bodily fluids to create grenades to go up against.
Yeah, that I've
So-
seen. The
That's
poop
shutting the door.
grenade. You know, it would be amazing if David Lynch and Kojima made a show.
Man.
I just want to see
there are
I want to see a
definitely
Kojima
visual
show.
parallels.
Kojima needs to be paid millions of dollars by Netflix to come up with a show, and it would be the weirdest thing ever.
So, what you're saying is Death Stranding is a game for scatologists? For people who are
No,
into
that's
scat.
Borderlands 3 is where you find your scatological content.
Yeah, they're both full of shit. Let's move on.
Oh.
Yeah, but it's played
Like-
with great earnesty.
Like
in
the fact that like
Stranding, so you just
I had to ask Randy, like, can you just not move around in the game, like in your room? And you're like, no. And it's like,
no, but
then-
that's
why have it? Like, if you just move the camera around, it feels like a David Cage game.
well, it's like an elaborate menu, but it also in a way it distances you from the character in a weird way that I think actually is like thematically or psychologically interesting. Like just kind of
No.
observing him as a weird security camera.
Yeah, but if you don't do anything, he just sits there. Like, you have no control. I mean, yeah, it's like
Well,
the
I mean-
ultimate weirdness.
I mean, now we're starting to get nitpicky. I can go back to Fire Emblem and say every time you have a dialogue, you have two pictures
Yeah.
that just stand side by side. I mean, you don't do anything during that. You can't walk around. During
Well, I mean,
Yeah.
that's kind of what you have to do when you're deciding between two games here. You gotta get nitpicky.
What you
The
do is
difference
you
there's also
rotate the
good-
camera and you use the things that you want to use in the room. What's I don't understand what's so difficult about that to grasp.
It feels like Detroit Become Human.
No.
Mark is just salty right now.
At no point are there weird QTEs. It's really more just you spin
The entire game
the
is a
camera
weird
around and there are
QTE.
menu options.
Like, the entire game is you pressing left or right and so you don't fall over. That's like the ultimate definition of a weird QTE.
Yeah, but
Uh,
it's not a QTE. It's a physics engine, and it's a really well tuned physics engine.
Yeah, and pro tip: if you just hold both triggers, you're fine.
Yep. Yeah, exactly.
Oh, so I just tape them down for the entire duration of the game?
Well, you won't be going very far, so you'll want to let go of them sometimes.
Yeah, you don't go as fast that way.
But you definitely there will be situations where you'll just be holding down those triggers for a long time, for sure. But that also it feels like you're holding on to a rucksack. It's all
All right.
contributing to the immersion.
So Death Stranding 1.
No. If you want to say it did, that's fine. I'll be...
All right. Well, y'all gotta
Disassociated
keep making
myself from
compelling
this
points
list.
here because at some point this is gonna get.
I mean, I will say that one of the most emotional moments that I've experienced in the game this year is when you have to make the choice as to whether or not you want to join Edelgard. So, I mean, Fire Emblem had high highs as well in its story.
And it has
Just
no
like-
lows. You yourself said Death Stranding has lows.
It has serious lows.
Yeah. Fire Emblem is just a smooth ride all the way across.
I don't know. I'd be fine with Fire Emblem at number 2.
Nah. It's your number 1. Oh, you have Code Vein above it, or whatever the hell you had.
Yeah, because I enjoyed it more.
Yeah, you enjoyed Fire Emblem more than Death Stranding.
Yeah, but this is not about enjoyment. This is also about artistic merit.
Yeah, there's more artistic merit in Fire Emblem than Death Stranding.
Well, it depends on what you get out of a game, right? Or does what you care about is it more fun, or is it? Are you looking at it for?
I would say like Death Stranding is a achievement for Kojima, and like that game engine is interesting, but
But he
all
didn't
I've
build that
done.
engine. That's not a Kojima engine.
Yeah, it's not the Fox engine. It's the
Luminosity?
Horizons, whatever the Horizon Zero Dawn engine.
Oh,
is.
okay.
Yeah.
I
I
thought it
think
was
actually I made that same mistake the last time we talked about it, and you corrected me. So I think we just both forgot.
Yeah.
But it looks like
yeah,
the Fox engine. It has that same kind of sheen and cleanliness and performance that Metal Gear Solid 5 had.
Yeah, it's that Decima engine thing. I remember that.
It doesn't have the texture pop of Horizon Zero Dawn, so it seems like they're using the engine better.
Oh, they had 2 more years to work, or 2 years of improvements and stuff. So
It's true, I guess.
All right, this is just taking too long. Let's go.
Yeah,
Yeah, seriously.
somebody's got to concede here.
I mean, I will just to get this over with, but I will, like I said, this list is my strong protest.
Okay. Noted.
And you all can write the blurbs by your own damn self.
Don't be doing that. Come on now.
I'll write the one
shit.
for Remnant and Luigi's Mansion. That's about it.
Hell no. Let's not hurt the column for.
I'll write a Code Vein blurb if desired.
Oh, I appreciate that. Okay, so here you go. Death Stranding is our game of the year with vehement protests by Mark.
It's not a good game.
That's what half the nation says. It's not a good game. The other half is
and
saying it's great.
Half the nation also picked Trump, so you guys are all idiots.
Let's not get political.
Let's not get political here.
No, this is about making America whole again, Mark.
Isn't the case.
Alright, so before we go through, is there anything else we should move? Like, I still say Apex used to be like 15 or something.
Now, if you move Apex up, Mark might quit.
I just don't care about I just don't care about Apex. That's the thing. And none of, like Sean kind of does, but it's not you're going to play it tomorrow or anything. Like you played it for a little while, but it didn't keep your interest.
Well, that's because I want to keep playing other games.
Yeah, that's also the problem with these battle royale games. It's like there's such an investment in in them that you don't have time for any other crap. So I'd rather play 1,000 controls or Fire Emblems than ranking up in Apex because I don't care.
Right, but that's like not putting PUBG on your list because you don't care about. It's just if it's genres that we don't do.
Also, Fire Emblem had way better music than Death Stranding.
Well, yes.
No.
Well, one of them is license and the other is score.
I can't say that. I haven't heard anything from Fire Emblem, so I really like it.
No, Fire Emblem has great music like it always does.
I also like the music in Death Stranding. Yeah. But Mark and I, we've already done our soundtrack top 10, so we don't need to rehash that.
Hey, one soundtrack opened the Game Awards, and it wasn't Fire Emblem, so. Not that that's a great argument.
It was the game that the guy who runs the Game Awards is in. Big
the
shock.
more...
Yeah, that one he does control. Maybe he doesn't control the voting, but he controls the other stuff.
Yeah, he controls production.
Yeah.
So
And it's a good song. All right, go ahead. We're done. Let's go.
Yeah.
All right, so here we go. Here is the final list at 3:08. 3 hours and 8 minutes into this podcast. At least it wasn't as long as the giant bomb thing, so that's a plus, maybe. I don't know, maybe not. So Judgment at 25, Remnant from the Ashes 24, Plague Tale Innocence at 23, Final Fantasy 14 Shadowbringers expansion at 22, Silent Night Wild Hearts at 21, Pokemon Sword and Shield at 20, Apex Legends 19, Kingdom Hearts 3 at 18, it's still weird, Code Vein 17, Luigi's Mansion 3 at 16, Astral Chain at 15, Slay the Spire 14, Devil May Cry 5 at 13, Bloodstained Ritual of the Night at 12, Untitled Goose Game at 11, Tetris 99 at 10, Disco Elysium at 9, Sekiro Shadows Die Twice at 8, Outer Worlds at 7, Outer Wilds at 6, Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order at 5, Resident Evil 2 Remake at 4, Control 3, Fire Emblem 3 Houses 2, and Death Stranding number 1. We now join the leading pack of people that have put Death Stranding as the game of the year. So, well, there you have it. There's our 25 best games of 2019. That puts
Good
a
job
cap.
getting through the stuff that Mark did to trip you up.
I'm good at that by now. But
I know this podcast has gone super long. I just want a quick, because 2020 is ridiculous. I bet all of us have a different prediction for Game of the Year in 2020, and all of them are fantastic games.
Wow.
Persona 5 Royal.
No. As much as I'm going to love that game.
Is that game even going to count? Because it's not a remake. It's like adding stuff on.
Well, we had
Catherine. It's like Catherine or Persona 4 the Golden.
Sean, what do you think the Game of the Year is going to be next year?
Well, I would think Last of Us 2 is probably going to be in the running for that. I think Final Fantasy VII Remake is probably going to piss off too many people, so that's not going to win, I don't think.
Persona 5 Scramble.
So many Persona things.
Hey, if that's half good, that's all that matters.
Oh, it'll be good. It looks like it's the A-team. The Musu A-team.
Yeah, so what about you?
Cyberpunk.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are gonna fall in love with that. I'm a Naughty Dog loyalist, so I mean I'm a Last of Us too.
And I adore Naughty Dog. I loved Last of Us, but I spent a full year playing The Witcher 3, and it was a life-changing thing for me.
But yeah, just that March to May window is scary, and I agree with who was I listening to? I'm blanking on the podcast now, but saying that we still haven't heard anything from Nintendo. And
yeah, well, we know that they're making the 2 remasters or whatever,
I would not
and
be
that's it.
surprised if, to counteract the PlayStation 5 and the new Xbox, that Breath of the Wild 2 comes out this holiday season.
That'd be crazy, because that looked like it wasn't even close at E3.
Yeah. Well, they're using the same engine and stuff, so it makes sense.
Where do you guys stand? I feel Ghost of Tsushima has a real chance of being like my super jam next year. That's the only one I can.
I still
hope
want to
so.
see more. I still haven't seen a lot of it, but it's one of those. Sucker Punch has never gone wrong with me, so I'm with you.
Yeah.
Well, okay, this is another podcast, so
Well,
I was going to do that. I was going to do that next week, so let's not make that.
One Piece Pirate Warriors 4.
Yeah, man, I'm excited for that. But yeah, so let's end this one here. Of course, you can hit us up on Twitter at HumanityPlague for Mark, at WTimSean. Jens, what's your...
Aperture Silence.
At Aperture Silence on Twitter. Randy doesn't get on Twitter much, but at Randy Isbelle, you can go shout at him and how much you love Death Stranding too, I guess.
Yeah.
And yeah, we'll have the written thing up pretty soon, hopefully. If Mark doesn't really protest about all the
We will see.
all the players, and then yeah, we'll be back. Yeah, because we still got to talk. We haven't even talked about the news from this week, and there was some. So we'll be back at some point talking about looking ahead to 2020, which I guess, yeah. I mean, we already got new consoles, crazy amount of games. 2020 is going to be ridiculous. Go take out a loan, people, because you're going to need it.
Psychonauts 2, that's one that I'm
oh yes, Psychonauts 2. Okay, let's we're gonna get
those
too
three.
bogged
Sorry,
down.
I had to limit myself to 3.
Well, all right. If you enjoyed listening to us, we are on everywhere that there are podcasts. Of course, I forgot to do this at the beginning, but we are the official video games podcast at W2Net.com, and of course, thank you to Last Word Radio, and Last Word Online for having us there as well. And yeah, go check us out wherever the heck you like to listen to podcasts. You can leave a review there if you want to, and we'll be back next week. Bye.